slow start. He doesn't have a decision, and his ERA is 4.22. Last year, he was 4-0 against our Sox. He was almost unhittable as the Indians went 17-2 against our club. There are the numbers. Lifetime, Justin Masterson, 85 with a spectacular 2.22 ERA. And the right-handers will have a tough time with this side-wheeling right-hander. It's up to the lefties today. But there's another aspect of the game, Mike, and that aspect is offense.
And it's been fun this year for the White Sox. We actually have offense, top of the order, bottom of the order. If you compare our team last year to this year, bottom in just about every category 2013 and top in just about every category 2014. Again, let's hope this can continue, and it's neat to see them being able to manufacture runs, be it 1-2 or 8-9 in the order.
There's a lot of speed on this team, and there's speed at the top, especially with Leury Garcia playing today. There's some speed in the middle and some speed at the bottom. That never slumps, and because of that, the offense has been red hot. So they look to take 3 in a row from the Tribe. Last year's nemesis is this year's Patsy. Let's see if it continues, and stay with us. We'll be back after these messages.
Chicago White Sox baseball is brought to you by Miller Lite. It's not just a good time, it's Miller time. By Ford, proud sponsor of your Chicago White Sox. Check out America's best-selling brand at your local Ford store or online at localfordstores.com. And by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports.
Way here, the White Sox bidding for a third in a row over the Tribe in this series. Hoping to wrap it up with a big win from Felipe Polino this afternoon. Last night, of course, Chris Sale got his third win of the year for the White Sox. They beat the Indians. Chris, admittedly, not his best effort in that ball game.
Probably did the least amount to win this game last night. Not exactly how I drew it up. You know, 5 and dive, backdoor win, and lean on my offense and bullpen to bring it together. But pulled it out. You know, they fought hard and never give up.
It's a mark of a real good pitcher, though, when you don't have your best stuff and you still win, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, you got to go out there. It doesn't matter who it is or who you got, or what you got. You got to, you know, keep fighting and never give up.
An exciting start for this ball club. First in runs scored in the major leagues. A lot of support this year.
Yeah, that's nice. You know, it's definitely nice. I mean, and that just goes to show, you know, the difference in this clubhouse, the different feel, the different vibe. You know, the guys that we have in here now, you know, we're fighting and scrapping everything out.
All right, Chris Sale now 3-0. More White Sox baseball coming up after a break here on WGN.
internet, you're going to get the same pictures and the same replays. And we will work out the trouble. Let's take a look at how Terry Francona is going to line up his Cleveland Indians today. Nyjer Morgan to lead it off. Then it's Nick Swisher. Jason Kipnis, who against our Sox has always been tough. Carlos Santana, Michael Brantley, Asdrubal Cabrera, the red-hot Ryan Rayburn, along with David Murphy and Mike Aviles, who's hit Paulino very well throughout his career. The defense and how they'll line up behind Paulino: Diaza, Eaton, and Danks in the outfield, with Gillespie, Ramirez, Leury Garcia, and Jose Abreu at first. Adrian Nieto gets a nod behind the plate, and Felipe Paulino on the hill. There's a look at the very large right-hander who would love to get his off-speed pitches over the plate. The wind is very much a factor today. The flags say that it's blowing in and across toward the White Sox dugout. That being said, the wind always swirls here, and it makes it a little more difficult on infield pop-ups or deep fly balls to the outfield. So the umpires for today's game: Quinn Walcott behind the plate. Jerry Davis is at first, Phil Cuzzy is at second, and Brian Knight is at third. So after a year in Japan for Yokohama, Nyjer Morgan is back in the major leagues. He made this Indians team as a non-roster player out of spring training. And he probably wouldn't have made it if not for Michael Bourne going on the disabled list. I'm here today with Mike Huff, who's my partner. Ken Harrelson is home, a little under the weather. Hopefully he will be back tomorrow. But Mike, nice to see you.
It's great to see you. Very exciting to be back. And this year, a lot different vibe at the ballpark than it was last year.
And first pitch of the ball game. Morgan takes up high. Nyjer Morgan's got terrific speed. And if he does try to bunt, he usually drags it. He won't push it to third base. So the outfield playing pretty much straight away. The infield in at the corners. And a good fastball for a strike, and the count goes to 1-2. Nick Swisher in the on-deck circle. This is our first look at Nyjer Morgan in this series. And he looks at a fastball inside. It just misses. Felipe's running it up there, 94-95. There's nothing wrong with his arm. Right back up the middle, base hit. So an ominous way to start this one, as Morgan's aboard.
Well, a nice at bat by Morgan. Most leadoff men, you want them taking pitches. This ball tailing back right on that inside corner. Unfortunately, it's about the third one Paulino threw there, so Morgan might have been thinking about it and got his hands inside. Didn't hit it too hard, but nice swing, flip of the bat, and unfortunately they got their leadoff guy.
That brings up Nick Swisher, who will swing from the left side against Paulino. He's 1 for 7 for the series with a run driven in. Good lead at first by Morgan. Swisher swings at a high fastball out of the zone, fouls it straight back. Nick went to Ohio State University. Natural right-hand hitter, obviously gets more at-bats from the left side, and after he left our ball club had some very good years with the New York Yankees. Morgan is back easily. You played in this outfield on windy days like this. How does it affect what the outfielders do?
Need a lot of communication. I mean, you've really got to track that ball when it comes off the bat, because just like you said in the opening, it can definitely pull it one way or the other.
That one popped up, but the wind is going to take this well back in the seats. And Swisher is down in the count 0-2.
Well, Paulino, good throw over, keeping Morgan close. Cleveland 6 for 6 in stolen bases, and 2 of them are by Nyjer, 3 of them by Jason Kipnis, the local boy. So besides those 2, Paulino probably can focus on the hitters more than the runners, but got to keep those guys on their toes.
Decent lead at first base by Morgan. And he got it. That was a slider on the inside corner and tied him up. And Swisher down on strikes.
Well, a nice setup, a little bit up on the first one. Inside corner on the second, a hard slider in under the hands. Perfect spot. And a very nice start, very nice tight rotation right on the glove. Nieto doing a great job of setting up inside, keeping low so that home plate umpire Quinn Walcott can see it just in case he doesn't swing.
That brings up Jason Kipnis, the Northbrook product. He's 2 for 8 in the series. He's yet to drive in a run. He's out at first. Good pickoff move, quick feet by Felipe Paulino. He had come close to getting him the time before, and this time he did get him, as called by Jerry Davis.
Well, ideally as a pitcher, you want to be having different moves to first. Whether sometimes you're coming set, sometimes you're on your way up. Paulino did a great job that time of on his way up. Quick first, and now Terry Francona probably inquiring with crew chief Jerry Davis, wondering if this might be reviewable.
Well, it is indeed reviewable, but for Terry Francona, if he does lose this, then he can't challenge again. So this, in the first inning, with 1 out and 1 on, he figures it's worth it with Kipnis and Santana coming up. Brantley to follow if it stays that long, and the umpires on the challenge are going to take a look at it. There has to be clear and definitive proof that Jerry Davis was wrong.
Well, and we're only a couple weeks into the season, Steve, but tell me, what is your thought about this?
I think, Mike, it's timing. I think the managers know when perhaps it's a bad call, but I think what they're going to have to work on is the timing. Because if you lose, and it didn't, he was safe at first base, so there is no pickoff. Terry Francona and his staff are right. So Nigel Morgan stays aboard. Outfield straightaway. Kipnis has hit safely in 20 of his 21 games here at U.S. Cellular Field. So he likes to show off in front of the home folks. And another quick move to first. Morgan is back easily.
And over those 21 career games, like you said, 20 of them with hits, a cool .403 batting average. Chicago boy that obviously likes playing in Chicago.
And he's quickly becoming, if not the face, one of the major representatives of the Cleveland Ball Club. They signed him to a long-term deal. Well worth it. He's a good solid second base. He's got speed, and he seems to know how to play the game. So 1-0 count on Jason Kipnis as Morgan leads away. That fastball misses up.
Well, as a pitcher, Steve, if you're missing up early, is that anything to be worried about, or is it just kind of getting loose and getting your feet under you?
I think it might be a case of adrenaline, trying to throw too hard in the first inning. And he misses up and away again. If you miss up and away to left-handers, Mike, it's that you're opening up too quickly. And if that front shoulder flies open, the arm can't catch up, and it's going to be up and into right-handers, up and away to lefties, and that's where he's missed to Kipnis. 3-0 pitch, and he misses the outside corner. So this is a complete reversal of fortune here in the first inning. Terry Francona appealed the pickoff of Nigel Morgan. It was judged that he was indeed safe. Instead of having 1 out and 2 out, you have 2 out and 1 out for Carlos Santana. Santana 0 for 8 in the series, hitting .194. He has played a sterling third base, however, and that's something that, when a catcher can do that, shows his versatility. He can play first, he can play third, and he's a better than average defender at both places. Good breaking ball for a strike. Santana came out of the Dodgers organization, and he was traded for Casey Blake. It was a time when the Dodgers needed Blake. He was a good player for them. They traded away a lot of the future for a bit of the present. That evens the count at 1-1.
Santana's faced Paulino once, a couple hits, 2 for 4, so another reason to throw him out in that lineup. Gotta love the versatility. Left-handed, has a little bit of pop in that bat.
Santana, more of a pull hitter from the left side than he is as a right-hand hitter. He probably hits the ball harder from the right side. But instead of a radical shift, Lexi Ramirez playing in back of Nigel Morgan at second, trying to shorten his lead. This is again, and a nice stop by Adrian Nieto behind the plate, and Paulino's having some control problems. Michael Brantley in the on-deck circle. One of 7 left-hand bats in the lineup for the Indians today. Well, perhaps Don Cooper might want to come out and have a conversation with Felipe. Because since that reversal at first base on the call, Paulino has not gotten the ball over the plate. He had a good slider inside on the pitch to Swisher. After that, a lot of high fastballs.
Well, and I was going to say the same thing. The good, hard inside slider that was down the zone. But if you go back and you look at the graphic, the first 2 strikes were both a little bit up, one of them out of the zone. So has not been able to get on top. Not sure if the wind is bothering him. If, again, like you were saying, adrenaline to starting the game. But he's put himself in a tough spot right now.
Bases loaded, only 1 out here in the first inning, and that slider catches the inside corner. So the outfield playing Brantley straight away, and Michael, whose father, Mickey Brantley, played for the Seattle Mariners in 1996 through 89, 86 through 89. Brantley's a good player. Ducks out of the way of a high fastball. Full count evens at 1.
That's one of those as a hitter. If it's coming up and in like that, you might want to lean in a little bit. If you can get a glancing blow, it's a nice little RBI. Bases stay loaded. You got your team a run. Don Cooper, you saw on the top step there, right next to Robin. I'm sure, just as you said, things don't go well with this batter. Probably going to come out and talk to Paulino a little bit and get his focus back where it should be. Get some of those mechanics back.
Little looper, base hit. That's going to score at least a pair. Eaton cuts it off, gets it back into the infield, and so the Indians, on the strength of a base hit and 2 walks, taking a 2-0 lead. Brantley driving in runs 8 and 9. And here comes Don Cooper.
Really nice swing as a hitter. You can sit back knowing that the only thing he has thrown Paulino, that is, for a strike so far in the last 2 or 3 at-bats has been a slider. Sometimes you can anticipate, maybe not guess, but anticipate that type of pitch, and that ball right over the middle of the plate. Brantley put a nice swing on it. Eaton doing a good job of getting it over and holding him to a single. And there's Coop probably reinforcing some of those. Got to get ahead. Get back to your strengths.
Don Cooper walks slowly off. That'll bring up Asdrubal Cabrera, who's hitting 200, a home run, 4 driven in. He's having a big series. He's 3 for 9 with 3 runs batted in. So yet another Indian switch hitter will look out at Paulino from the left side. He's going to face Rayburn and Aviles as right-hand hitters. The rest are either straight left or switch hitters hitting from the left side. Goes that high fastball by him.
Sometimes as a hitter, you can be anticipating a pitch, you see it, and you forget to remind yourself, make that be a strike. Don't just look for a fastball.
Cabrera 1 for 6 lifetime against Paulino. Fouls that one to the right, and he's in an 0-2 hole.
Cabrera, a solid ball player for Cleveland. Seems like always gives us fits, hitting from both sides of the plate.
He's in the final year of his contract. The Indians, who tried to trade him over the winter, couldn't get what they wanted for him. Realized that they were going to be in contention this year, and they expect to do that, as Drubel's a pretty good man to have at shortstop. Little chopper. Throw to second for one. Back to first. It's too late. And so another run scores. It's a 3-0 game. And here comes Robin. He may want to challenge this one. And the challenge would be that his foot stayed on the bag as opposed to beating the play. But it can be diffused if Jerry Davis says he beat the play.
Well, I tell you what, Abreu did the right thing here. When you're trying to get a double play, prevent the run from scoring. If you go back and tag first, and Brantley gets in a rundown before that score, before the runner crosses the plate, the runner will be safe. But like you said, it was awfully close. Abreu doing a good job of getting back. Here's Ramirez on the throwback.
I think most likely what Jerry Davis told Robin is that his foot was on the bag. However, Asdrubal Cabrera beat the throw.
There you go.
It's a run batted in, the 5th of the year for Cabrera, the 4th of this series. And it brings up Ryan Rayburn, who's 3 for 8 in the series with 2 driven in, hitting .276 overall with a couple of runs batted in. One misses inside. Rayburn has never faced Paulino.
Well, whatever Don Cooper said worked against Cabrera. Hit the strike zone, pounding it.
There was a good slider, or a little cutter.
It hit in the glove. I mean, starting over the plate, just sliding off. That is a pitcher's pitch, and sometimes as a hitter, that's when you got to just let go by, especially when you're 1-0 in the count. All thing you're going to do with that is break your bat, probably. Weak ground ball to second.
Outfield straight away. Infield playing him as a pull hitter. Soft breaking ball fouled off to the left. Rayburn came over from Detroit. The Indians love him because of his versatility. He was supposed to be in a platoon system. That being said, he was going to platoon with David Murphy. However, he's hit so well against the Sox during the course of his career that he's been in each and every game. Cabrera's back. 71 degrees here today. Beautiful day, a little windy. It's going to be a very lively ballpark in the daytime. Little tapper to the right side. And Garcia to Abreu. Inning over, but not before the Indians score 3 on a couple of hits with a couple of walks. And so we'll head into the bottom of the first inning with the Sox trailing 3-0. line up the boys today with Adam Eaton leading it off. Then it's Leroy Garcia at second, Connor Gillespie at third. 4 runs batted in last night. Then Abreu, Dunn, Ramirez, Piazza, Nieto, and Jordan Danks getting his first start of the year in right field. The defense and out in the lineup behind Masterson, it's Brantley, Morgan, and Murphy in the outfield with Aviles, Cabrera, Kipnis, and Swisher in the infield. Carlos Santana handling the duties behind the plate. And big Justin Masterson on the hill. Side-wheeling right-hander who last year was 4-0 against our ball club. 8-5 lifetime against our Sox, but has yet to record a decision this year. And Adam Eaton to lead it off. He's 4 for 7 with 2 driven in the series, hitting .333 overall with 8 runs batted in. And first pitch misses wide. Why do you believe that Masterson is vulnerable to the left-hand hitter?
Well, in his delivery, it is not a 3/4 straight over the top. It's a little bit more down to the sidearm. And for a right-handed batter, you really have to look across your body. Unless you have an open stance, it's going to be tough to pick it up, which means it's just going to be that much tougher to pick up the rotation. Left-handers, when he drops down, you can really see it coming out. You can really figure out early if it's a strike or a ball.
2-1 count on Eaton. And leading off, you want to see as many pitches as you can. The outfield shading him a touch toward left center. Masterson misses.
Well, that's been one of the best parts about Adam. Setting the table, setting the tone, showing everybody that, you know what, it's okay to take a pitch or two. It's okay to work a pitcher. He's got to throw 3 strikes, not just 1 to get you out.
Fastball over the outside corner. Last year, Masterson was timed around 94-95 when he aired it out. This year, he hasn't reached those numbers. And he draws a walk. Good way to start with Eaton aboard. Saw a lot of pitches in his first at bat. And Leury Garcia stepping in with a .333 batting average. It's the first time he is going to hit in the series. Takes a long look down at Joe McEwing.
With a batter like Garcia, there are so many things on the table. Laying down a bunt, a hit and run, guy that can work the count. Eaton can get Masterson a little bit nervous with his base stealing abilities.
Fastball catches the outside corner. Indians not concerned quite yet, but it's a topic of conversation. The velocity of Masterson being consistently down. He's throwing fastballs at 89 here. Could very well be that he's holding some back. We'll see as we move along, but the late movement isn't quite there. Right at third. Into right field. Aaron Aviles. Which runners at first and third and nobody out.
I tell you what, we'll take it any way we can. Game 1 got behind early, came back. And this one, nice swing by Garcia. But Kipnis, who was playing almost straight up, not really double play depth. The field gets rid of it way too quickly, and as Kipnis is coming over, the ball was thrown way behind him. Couldn't get back and reach it. Eaton, easy to third, picking up Joe McEwing. Now we've got him at the corner with Connor Gillespie.
Connor having a big series. He's 3 for 8 with 4 driven in. Has 8 runs batted in for this young season. Indians committing their 9th error of the year. For Mike Aviles, that's his first.
Well, as you've watched Connor over these first couple of weeks, what is it about his approach this year that he just looks more relaxed almost?
I think it's the fact that he's playing just about every day. And he's got a short stroke. If your stroke is that short, very difficult to get out of sync. So he's been barreling it up pretty well. Did it most of spring. Has done it most of the early going. And of course, last night, sacrifice fly, single, and a double. 4 driven in. A big night for Connor Gillespie. Overall hitting .343 with those 8 runs batted in. And he's in a 1-2 hole.
Do you think knowing that he's got 3-4 guys behind him, all that can hit home runs, even though he's hitting the 3rd spot, it helps him relax, realizing I can just hit line drives?
I don't think you can ever do or try what you can't do. He's a line drive hitter. He can hit the ball out of the park, but he is a line drive hitter. One fouled off to the right. Decent speed in the outfield. Brantley, a very good outfielder. We've seen him in center field in this series, but he shifts over to left to accommodate Nyjer Morgan in their starting lineup. And David Murphy getting a start today. Runners at first and third, nobody out. Sox trail 3-0. Backdoor breaking ball misses away.
See Mr. Masterson here trying to work his way around the plate. Good call by home plate umpire Quinn Walcott. Framed nicely by Santana.
Another backdoor breaking ball and another miss. So the count goes to 3-2. And I guess the question for Robin is, do you run with Garcia?
And you know what? I like the idea, just like you said. You've got a hitter up there who makes contact. He's in a pretty good groove right now. You get those middle infielders moving. Opens up a few more holes.
There he goes. Base hit left field. And Leury Garcia on the way to third. He goes in with the head first slide. So for Connor Gillespie, his 9th run batted in, and the first hit of the game for the Sox.
You said it before, Gillespie doing a good job this year with the runner going, making sure that ball's in play, staying on top of it enough, and with Garcia moving, even though this ball's into left field, great turn, good hard slide into third, and just making sure going head first. We're back at the corners, nobody out.
Jose Abreu steps in, hitting .273, 4 home runs, 14 driven in. And he looks at the fastball inside.
Now, you saw Masterson 4 times last year. Like you said, against us, he was pretty untouchable. Is there anything that you can see in his delivery or his makeup that would indicate the lack of velocity and the lack of control?
Last time out against Minnesota, in talking with some of the guys on this Cleveland team, they said that he had no idea where he was throwing the ball. Couldn't get the slider over, the fastball he couldn't get over, and inexplicable loss of velocity is cause for concern. So 2-0 count on Abreu. And he looks at a fastball up and in. Now it goes to 3-0. I'm sure he's one of the guys in this lineup that Robin has given the 3-0 green light to. That doesn't mean it's a must swing count. Drops one over for a strike. That fastball 89, so he hasn't varied.
Well, there are certain guys that I remember even playing with Robin and Frank in those early 90 years that sometimes they would get a green light, but they just didn't feel comfortable enough on a 3-0 pitch.
Infield about halfway, looking for a double play. Goes that fastball by him. So we get another full count. And Masterson at the 21 pitch mark with nobody out here in the first. A walk, an error, and a base hit that made it a 3-1 game. And he walked him.
Well, and that was a bad walk too. Masterson working the inner half of the plate, inexplicably way outside in that last one.
Mickey Callaway comes trotting out from the dugout to settle down his big right-hander. If they can't get Masterson untracked, they're not going to have a particularly good year. This is their #1 starting pitcher.
Well, you mentioned earlier the reason that Nyjer Morgan's playing center even made the ball club is because Michael Bourne has started on the DL. One of the big acquisitions from last year. Again, one of the reasons they did so well. And if you lose that top of the order guy that you paid big money to as a free agent and then lose your ace pitcher, it's going to be a long season for Terry Francona.
Well, they're expecting Michael Bourne to come back as early as Monday, especially with the inclement weather possible tomorrow. They don't want to bring him back and risk any more leg injuries because that's what he's out with. So it brings up Adam Dunn. 2 for 5 in the series with a run driven in, 2 home runs, 5 overall, and he's hitting .240. Hits that ball deep to right center field. Morgan on the run. He can't get to it. It's going to fall. Here comes one run. And Connor Gillespie scoring. And just like that, it's a 3-3 game. So Adam drives in a pair. He's got 7. And the lead just disappeared.
Just like that. Adam Dunn early in the count, a little bit off the end of the bat. I think on a normal day, not as much wind. If he barrels this up a little bit more, he's got a grand slam, but hits this ball deep, far nitrogen, decent jump, can't quite get there. And Abreu with Gillespie hanging around second base, not sure if it was going to be caught or not. Abreu does a smart thing, not running him off of third, long single, but still nobody out, 2 runs scored, and like you said, how nice, just like the opening day, erasing that 2-0, now 3-0 lead, tying it up.
Here comes Alexei Ramirez, who's been red hot. Ramirez 4 for 8 in the series with 4 driven in, overall hitting .429 with 2 home runs and 10 driven in.
When you want to talk about the right guy in the right location.
Well, it hasn't been the right pitcher over the course of his career. He's 8 for 49, pencils out to 163 lifetime against Masterson. However, that being said, this is not the Justin Masterson we saw in the last couple of years. With that fastball by him, it was inside off the plate.
Well, it's also not the same Alexei Ramirez that we've seen. Right now, leading the league with 18 hits. 2 more than Miguel Cabrera. Second in RBIs with 10.
Ground ball left side. Avila's up with it over to second for 1 and no return throw. That was a slow developing play and Adam Dunn went in, but there wasn't going to be a double play relay throw anyway.
Well, sometimes it pays not to hit it too hard. This was one of those. Avila a little bit more sure of himself, but again, throw a little bit on the outside, left field side to second base. Didn't really give Kipnis much of a chance, although with the slow roller, Ramirez, who can run pretty good, probably going to beat it anyways.
Alejandro Diaz hitting 167, 3 home runs, 5 driven in, 1 for 8 in the series with a run driven in. And lifetime against Masterson, he's been pretty good. To the right side and threw into right field, and the Sox have the lead. It's a 4-3 game.
And just like that, we used to joke around saying a walk, a boot, and a bang. Well, we had the walk, we had the boot, and a couple of base hits. Next thing you know, we've got the lead. Diaz is doing a good job keeping that front shoulder in. The man on first, knowing you've got a hole there, use that right side of the infield. You see Kipnis again trying to play as straight up as he could, still unable to get there. We now have a lead. The guys on first and second, only 1 out.
Diaz has pushed his lifetime average against Masterson up over 300 with that base hit, and it brings up Adrian Nieto. Pops that one away. Nieto 1 for 4 in the series, hitting .222 overall, still looking for his first run batted in. This young man has never played above A ball until this year. Made the team out of spring training, was a Rule 5 draft from the Washington Nationals, meaning they didn't protect him by putting him on the 40-man roster. So Rick Hahn, who has done a very good job reassembling this baseball team, trying to find and fill all the holes that he had from last year. Like what he saw in a switch-hitting young catcher, and he made the ball club because if he didn't, they would have to offer him back to the Nationals, and the Nationals were grabbed him.
Well, as you said, that Rule 5 draft, both good and bad, in that you have to keep that player on the major league roster, the team that picks up someone via the Rule 5 draft, for the entire year. With Nieto, like he would bring around some of his countrymen. I'm sure Rick Hahn, Robin Ventura saw enough in spring training and he would have some success here. He would be comfortable, and he could fill that backup role, which then gives you a chance to send down to AAA.
He got him. Slider inside. Adrian swung well over the top of it. So the second out of the inning.
We talked about Paulino's strikeout against Swisher. Good hard slider, inside location. Masterson just did the same thing to Nieto.
And here's Jordan Danks getting his first start. He's never seen Masterson. Had a great spring. 5 home runs, 10 driven in. And he fouls off that slider on the first pitch.
Well, that's one of the most difficult things when you're a player coming up. Having the type of spring that you think is going to help you make a ball club, and then just through numbers, you having to go back to the minor leagues. Very difficult to take, but Jordan did a good job down there, and he's obviously on his way back here. Not the way he wanted to, but he is here. You hate seeing an injury to anybody be the reason you get to the major leagues. Yet, just about every player that has ever made the major leagues, I would say probably 90-95 are making it because of an injury. Very few just start out in spring training or just go right out of college or high school from injuries.
That ball fouled off to the right. There has been an inordinate amount of injuries in the early going this year, and the depth of a lot of teams are tested. Obviously, you hate to lose Avisail Garcia for the year. He's just starting to get on track. But the 2 major injuries have been the second and right field. Nice stop by Santana. So one guy we could ill afford to lose would be in center field at the top, because Adam Eaton has played the leadoff hitter to perfection. We had some depth in the outfield, some depth in the infield, and that's where the 2 major injuries have come. And of course, with Nate Jones out of the bullpen, they tried to pick it up. So that little sinker away gets him, but not before the Sox come back with 4 runs, take a 4-3 lead, and will head to the top of the second. David Murphy to lead it off in this 4-3 game. A lot of fireworks in the first inning. And it's nice to see the kind of instant offense keyed by the leadoff walk to Adam Eaton. That one misses low and in, and the count evens at 1-1. Murphy 0 for 3 in the series. hitting .286 overall. And he looks at a fastball down. Fouls it off, and the count evens at 2-2. Murphy, along with Josh Outman and John Axford, the three key arrivals for the Indians, who didn't do a whole lot in the wintertime. Line drive, hooking, fair ball, just inside the pole. So Murphy hits his second home run of the year, and that ties the game at 4. Line drive rocket. I told you the park was going to be lively. It's pretty lively.
Well, the wind is blowing pretty hard around here today, and Paulino got away with pitch for strike 2. This one, Murphy did not miss it. Got the barrel out, hands inside. Had a chance to possibly hook. But again, crew chief Jerry Davis, home run.
Mike Aviles hitting .200 with a home run and 4 driven in. He's 2 for 7 in the series with a run batted in. He committed his first very costly error on what looked like 2 in the Sox half of the first inning. It opened the door for 4. This looks like a day when the bullpens are going to be used quite a bit.
If you look right here on the screen, baseball right in the middle of that pole does appear that it has gone foul.
Long drive right field, and Jordan Danks puts it away. That is a foul ball. If you can see the ball as it gets to the pole, it means it hooked in front of the pole. You can see the ball just below the screen as it hooks in front of the pole. No argument, no challenge, tie game on a foul ball.
On a foul call.
Nyjer Morgan looks at one down. And he looks at one up. Had a base hit in the first inning. Keep the 3-run rally. Taking all the way, as you would expect the leadoff hitter with speed to do. Connor Gillespie very shallow at third base. And Morgan fouls it straight back.
Connor taking a few steps back with 2 strikes.
With Morgan, you don't want to stay too far back in the infield, because if he squibs one off the end of the bat, he's got such good speed that you have to be in closer than you normally would against a guy who couldn't run well. Center field, right at Adam Eaton. He drifts a couple of steps and puts it away. 2 out here in the second inning.
Folks, organize a group outing of 20 or more for a Sox game during 2014 season and receive savings off the individual game ticket price, or enhance your outing by upgrading to one of our great party areas. Call 312-674-1000 or visit whitesox.com/group to book your group outing today.
Nick Swisher, a strikeout victim last inning. His batting average now 174. Not a great beginning for Swisher. In fact, this Indian team, offensively, they haven't gotten it done. After 11 games last year, they were exactly the same spot they are now. That ball popped up. Drifting over, Gillespie. Diaz says, "I've got it." And he puts it away. But not before a run scores to tie this game at 4. We head into the bottom of the second inning. The Sox come to bat to do some more damage.
click on the Game Zone banner for updated stats and information. The Game Zone is powered by St. Xavier University. Tradition, innovation, this is where they meet. Very fun, the WGN Game Zone. I've done that a couple times while you guys have been on broadcasting.
Sox batted around in the first inning, so Adam Eaton to lead it off. Drive to right field, well hit. Murphy goes back, he looks up, it's gone. First home run in a White Sox uniform for Adam Eaton, and that a no-doubter makes it a 5-4 game.
Well, there's a lot to like about this young man. The energy he brings to the ballpark. You're absolutely right. That's the first home run of the year for him in the White Sox uniform. Love the fact that sprints around the bases. Garcia taking a strike there.
It was on that squibber to Aviles that the error was made in the first inning. And the left-handers have gotten the job done against Masterson.
Well, here's a great swing by Mr. Eaton. Short stride, barrel to the ball. Well struck. And Murphy a couple steps, and he knew that was gone. Back of the bullpen.
That one misses away. It's a 1-2 count. Garcia, who scored the second run of the ball game. The chopper foul. Masterson, a big man, 6'6", 250 pounds. He was due to go to Notre Dame, and he missed a recruiting weekend with food poisoning, and they turned him down. So he gets rung up on a pitch just off the corner. Quinn Wolcott thought it was good enough. And Leary down on strikes.
Well, this is tough for a hitter because Masterson throwing a few of those backdoor sliders that have just been outside, just been a little low. You start to almost anticipate that once it starts over there, it's going to stay. And this one, Masterson was able to bring all the way back around in. You can see the flags, how hard they are blowing down. That is that right field corner.
Little chopper to the right side. So Gillespie, one pitch and the second out of the inning. He singled, scored a run in the first. That'll bring up Jose Abreu. In 2008, Justin Masterson became the first Jamaican-born pitcher to pitch in the major leagues. You would have thought it would have happened a little earlier than that. The slider over the outside corner. Jose Drew walked, scored a run last inning. One chop foul, so Abreu now 2 for 8 in the series. Driven in 3 last night. Hit a couple of deep shots to center field. One Brantley made a spectacular catch on, and the second one looked like it was going to go out of the ballpark, but it just died at the track. He rings him up. That ball is inside, but good enough for Quinn Wolcott. So after 2, Sox lead 5-4.
Get cash out of your home, no monthly payments, and still own your home. There's got to be a catch, right, Jesse? Well, there isn't. It's like any other mortgage, only with a reverse mortgage, the loan's paid back.
bacteria.
I should probably take this.
Live the regular life. Phillips.
Jason Kipnis to lead it off. And he looks at a hanging breaking ball, fouls it straight back, and Felipe got away with one there.
Yes, he did. Kipnis walked and scored his first at-bat. Like Adam Eaton was anxious up there, aggressive. Well, just missed him with that one, and you're right. Rolling curveball. That sometimes for a pitcher, I'm sure you're just thinking they're looking fastball, let me roll one for a strike. Kipnis just missed it. Now, Kipnis missed two on the inside.
Outfield straight away for Kipnis, who's a line drive hitter with some power. He also gives you consistent speed in the lineup. Felipe falls behind 3-1. The jet stream blowing out to right field today. That one fouled off. That's a full count. Beautiful day at the ballpark. Temperature now 74. It's up 3 degrees from when we started. That one's skied. Adam Eaton picking it up, and he's got a long run, and he can't get to it. The wind just batted that ball down, but there's an example of where the infielder has to help out the outfielder. There was no chance for Diaza. And both infielders came back to cover second base.
Yeah, Adam, the way that ball was hit off the bat, full swing, ball in the air, but that jet stream, it got above the seats, above the stadium, and the wind took it from a potential mid to deep center field to a shallow left center. Infielders need to be calling, helping them come in. Diaza tried to come over to help from left field, but for Plano, I'm sure he's thinking, okay, guys, I'm struggling a little bit here. Something like that, please help pick me up.
Carlos Santana tries to bunt, knowing on the severe shift that nobody was home on the left side. It was a good idea. He actually could have bunted it for a double, because Gillespie is way off the line, playing almost a straightaway shortstop, and he's the only man home on the left side of the infield. So Santana drew a walk, scored in the first inning.
It'll be interesting to see if he tries to do this again, either in this at-bat or another one.
Short lead at first by Kipnis, and that one fouled off to the left. Did you ever run at an 0-2 count?
When I was stealing? No. Very rarely. I mean, I would get a signal sometimes that I would be on my own. But too often I felt like pitchers might throw out, pitch out, pitch you can waste. And fouled back by Santana. I'd wait until there was 1 or 2 strikes, 1 or 2 balls where I felt like the pitcher didn't want to get behind the hitter. But if he was going to try to strike him out, it would be a curveball, a changeup. Best time to honor was first one.
Count holds at 0-2. And that one misses outside. So he threw a changeup. Missed well wide.
Well, this will be an interesting situation. If you run Kipnis, who's going to be covering second? Because if it is Gillespie, you've got no one covering third.
That one down and out of the zone. Well, with a severe shift like this, if in fact it is going to be Gillespie covering second base, then Nieto, his only responsibility is to go and cover third. And the pitcher's responsibility then would be to come home and cover the plate. So you've got coverage at every base then. 2-2 count to Santana. That should be 2. Over to Gillespie. Back to first for the double play.
Larry Garcia starting this one off beautifully, and They look a little bit strange in the box score with that severe shift. It's a 4-5-3 double play. Typically one you'd see 4-6-3, but Connor does a good job of getting over there, getting rid of it, throwing a strike to a Brady.
He also did a good job of getting far enough away from the bag so that Kipnis could not slide at him without interference being called. Fastball misses up to Michael Brantley, who singled in 2 in the first inning. Brantley came over in the trade that sent CC Sabathia to the Milwaukee Brewers. Right at first, Abreu stays with it on the high hop, and that's it for the top of the 3rd inning. Sox up 5-4, coming to bat.
Be anyone. What if the legends were true? Witches!
Adam Dunn to lead it off here in the bottom of the 3rd inning. Sox have a 5-4 lead. It's tied at 4, the only error of the game by Michael Vilas. And he looks at 1 down and in. Backdoor breaking ball, and Masterson is starting to use more of those. That fastball, although it has some movement, is down 4 or 5 miles an hour from what we've seen. And the second breaking ball for a strike. Infield with the radical shift. Outfield pretty much straight away for Adam. And he throws a fastball right by him. That was the first fastball that had something on it. 93 miles an hour.
Provide your guests with the ultimate all-inclusive White Sox experience in the Home Plate Club or Magellan Scout seats. These 2 premium seating areas are the best way to entertain your most important clients, employees, friends, or family. For more information, call 312-674-1000 or visit whitesox.com/premium seating.
Alexi Ramirez has an 11-game hitting streak. He sits safely in every game this year. First time up, grounded into a force play. And the count goes to 3-0. Masterson last year had his best year. 14-10 with an ERA of 3.45 and 29 starts. And he misses, so Alexi's aboard with a walk. That's the 3rd walk of the game that's been issued by Masterson. You know, Chris Sale last year was second as far as fewest runs scored for him. He averages 3.19 runs scored for him per game. It wasn't the usual Chris Sale performance last night, but it's a completely different ball club. Sale went 5 innings, gave up 3 runs on 6 hits to 105 pitches, had to leave. But the offense put 9 on the board, and Chris has moved his record to 3-0. Alejandro Diaz, who singled in a run in the first inning. Short turnaround for the ball club, Mike. And when you play a night game and come back with a day game on a day that's as bright as this, is it difficult for the hitter?
Oh, it's very difficult. I think the one thing we have going for us is, I think you guys start off with 6 day games in a row, didn't you?
Seemingly it was day game Orama to start the season.
So once you start to get your eyes, once you start to get your body into a routine of playing in the day versus playing at night, it's difficult when you're jumping back and forth. Again, you talk about the Cubs, the other team in Chicago on the north side, how half their games at night, half in the day. It's tough to get into a nice routine.
Those 6 day games in a row interrupted by a couple of night games in Colorado. And of course, coming back here with now 2 day games today and tomorrow. 2-1 count on Alejandro. He's now 2 for 9 in the series, driven in a couple of runs.
Alejandro had that great opening day, 2-homer game. 3 on the year.
He had 3 home runs in the first 3 games. No White Sox hitter had done that. Swings and misses at a fastball out of the zone. So it goes to 2-2.
You can see him knowing he got out of himself a little bit there. As a hitter, you know what your strengths are. You said it perfectly earlier, Steve, about Connor Gillespie just playing within himself this year, line drives. That swing was one for Alejandro that clearly was not prototypical, not atypical of who he is and what he wants to do at the plate.
Oh, and you can't change who you are. Connor Gillespie, regardless of where he hits in this lineup, and he's hitting 3 today, and he's hit 3 a lot of games. But that doesn't mean that suddenly he's got to hit the ball out of the park. Little chopper foul. You know, a lot of comparisons, Mike. They're comparing or want to compare Jose Abreu to Frank Thomas. Is that fair to either guy at this point?
Oh, not ever is it fair. Even if someone has been in the league for 10 years, it's almost laughable when you're putting such undue pressure on someone that has never played a day in the major leagues to compare him to someone that's in the Hall of Fame. Abreu has a great potential future.
Good pick by Swisher. The return throw to Masterson, and he doesn't get to the bag, and so Diaz able to beat it and keeps the inning alive. Nick Swisher is a good first baseman.
You can see Swisher sliding off first base and on a short hop. Great job of fielding it, coming forward with it. Masterson just a little bit slow getting over, and Diaz hustling down the line. Even though the ball may have beaten him, I think Diaz knew not going to overstretch because Masterson was sort of in the baseline and not on the base. So let's not pull any muscles here. We'll run through it. We'll be safe.
Adrian Nieto hitting .222, a strikeout victim in the first inning. And he swings for that one. Adrian's got his parents in town. And all his dad could say to him on the first homestand was, wow, it's cold. And it was very cold. We're playing anywhere from 32 to 34 degrees, but not today. It's up to 75. Just a gorgeous day. That evens a count of 1-1.
Well, as a part-time player, especially when you have family in town, you want to talk about adrenaline flowing. You want to do so well for those that have loved you, supported you your whole life. It is more difficult at times to relax and just play your game.
That one misses up and away. So the best fastball that Masterson has thrown was only one, and that was 93, striking out Adam Dunn. The rest of the fastballs have been 88, 89. the outside corner. And Masterson has told the Cleveland media that he feels he can get better movement at 88 and 89 than he can in the low 90s. Yet to have a decision so far, but he's got to pick it up because he is the ace of their staff. And that high breaking ball stays out of the zone. So Diaz will be off with the pitch. Full count to Adrian Nieto. Masterson was putting the sleeper on him. He felt that if he held the ball long enough, one, nothing bad can happen, and two, maybe Diaz will fall asleep.
Well, as a pitcher, I've seen that lots of times where a pitcher won't throw, but I mean, what's going through? You don't have the grip. I mean, what's the reason for that?
Aggravate the hitter. He got him. So a scoreless third, and as we head into the top of the fourth, it's 5-4 Sox. Liquors, 20 East 34th Street in Stager on Thursday, April 17th from 6 to 8 p.m. Guests will receive a photograph and commemorative autograph card. Lucky fans 21 or over can enter a chance to win White Sox Miller Lite hoodie or a hat and register for a chance to play softball at U.S. Cellular Field. Brought to you by Miller Lite, the original light beer and the official beer of your Chicago White Sox. As Drupal Cabrera to lead it off. He's had a particularly good series, now driving in 5 runs. Grounded into force play, but drove home a run in the first. Good fastball for a strike. Outfield straightaway, fairly deep in right. And you're seeing Paulino for the first time, Mike. What do you think of his stuff so far early in this?
Well, just been inconsistent, kind of like his ERA and his record right now. You see signs of excellence, but then you see signs that are just a little bit struggling.
1-2 count as Felipe looks in.
A stout body, so you think he can last for the year.
Battled some arm injuries and surgery. He's coming back. The fastball is 93-94. The fastball is plenty good enough if he gets the off-speed stuff over the plate. Misses up and in. Last year, the Indians were 92-70. They were 30-8 combined against our Sox and Minnesota. They don't look to be able to do quite that much this year. And it was an unusual year for them. They won 31-run games, or 30-18. They also won 11 games in their last at bat. With very few additions to this team, I'm not sure if you can duplicate that for a second year in a row. One fouled off, and the count stays full. The Indians lost a whole lot of pitching in the offseason. Ubaldo Jimenez leaving as a free agent. Scott Kazmir leaving as a free agent. Chris Perez and Joe Smith also gone. And he walks him just off the plate inside. Brings up Ryan Rayburn, who grounded to second to end the first inning.
Cooper has lots of magic in helping pitchers find something that they may have lost or coming back off injuries.
Well, he's done a real good job early this year has been Michael Plato. As Plato throws the ball 98 miles an hour, there was never any doubt as to his physical ability. It was St. Louis who couldn't get the ball over the plate. He is doing a whole lot of that this year, and he's becoming a very valuable man out of the bullpen. Last night, pitching a scoreless inning, giving way to Donnie Veal, who wrapped it up and wrapped up the win for Chris Sale. There's look at Don Cooper, one of the best in the business. Rayburn got one up, but out of the zone, and he fouled it right back.
Doing a good job of getting that one under the hands, not letting him get that extension.
The Indians lost by 1 game to the Detroit Tigers. Somewhat misleading because they won their last 10 games of the season while Detroit had pretty much put the brakes on and was looking forward to the playoffs. Good fastball for a strike. The count goes to 1-2. Against the Tigers last year, the Tribe probably lost the division. They were 4-15 against Detroit. You have just a decent year against the one team that you have to beat, and perhaps the Indians win the division. It didn't work out that way. That evens the count at 2-2. Wind certainly picking up. And even though the flags say that it's blowing in from right field, it actually swirls and takes the ball out to right field and bats the ball down in left center, as we've already seen today. He got him on the outside corner at 95 miles an hour. Rayburn doesn't like it, but it was there.
I'll tell you what, as a hitter, sometimes you got to tip your cap. As you can see, that ball hitting the very outside corner, right across the knees. Asking the home plate umpires, that ball outside, because earlier in this game, some of those borderline pitches were called balls. Now, all of a sudden, they're all turning into strikes.
David Murphy, who homered in the second, looks out of Felipe Paulino. Murphy hitting .310. 7 driven in and a couple of home runs, including that one in the second inning. And that ball actually hooked in front of the pole. So Murphy got a break. Outfield straight away for Murphy. Last year, Murphy hit just .220 with the Texas Rangers. It was a terrible year for him. And one of the reasons why Cleveland acquired him was as a platoon player, because lifetime he's hit .280 against right-hand pitchers. And they believe he can have a bounce back year and be a valuable member, albeit a platoon player, for most of this season. And the count goes to 3-1.
Well, the gentleman that took his spot as that left-handed backup outfielder in Texas is one of the Academy, Bull Sox Academy's finest, Jim Meducci Jr., who's come up through our system and doing a nice job filling in that fourth outfield spot.
Lifted to left field. Piazza drifting over toward the line, and he makes the catch. Well, you guys do a terrific job at the academy. I was wearing a jacket the other day, and I had a young man come up to me, and he said, "Do you work there?" I said, "No, you know, they pay huge money, and I couldn't possibly work there." But he said he was part of the basketball academy, and he said he learned the fundamentals. He said it was a great place, and he just wanted me to know it. So now I'm telling you, and I'm sure the same thing holds true with the basketball and the baseball side of it both.
Well, we're very proud of our girls on the softball side as well. So it's a fun place.
Good slider on the outside corner. Mike Aviles flied out to right field in the second. Committed a very costly error in the Sox half of the first. He has always swung the bat well against our ball club.
Well, and that error in the first inning, so costly because it allowed us, instead of Adam Eaton's walk, cleared bases, 2 outs, now we're first and third, and even though we were down by 3, the vibe was we could come back, which we did.
Broken bat through the left side. Ramirez, the plant, the throw. He's got him. Great play by Alexi Ramirez, and out of the inning with that 5-4 lead.
Well, we've talked about Alexi's offense and what a great start hitting in all 11 games, but let's not forget about how good he is defensively. Going down on this backhand to one knee and coming up and firing a bullet all the way across the infield to get Aviles by a step.
It'll bring up Jordan Danks, strikeout victim to end the first inning. Jordan got his opportunity to come to the big leagues with the injury to Aviseo Garcia. There is so much competition for major league jobs, and sometimes, even if you have a magnificent spring, you just don't get the job, and that's what happened with Jordan Danks this spring. He's got the ability to do just about everything. He probably is the best defensive outfielder the Sox have at all 3 positions. But he's got to establish that he can hit. And that 3-0 fastball over the outside corner runs it to 3-1. Broken bat, base hit. The bat goes flying right at Kipnis at second base. And a big turn, and Jordan Danks puts on the brakes. So his first hit of the year.
Well, and for Jordan, first hit of the year, right on that inside corner, does a good job, short stride, getting his hands inside, hitting it well, even though it's a broken bat. A died a champion. Barrel went a long way, and I don't know if it distracted Swisher a little bit. Nick typically, normally, a very sure-handed first baseman. We saw him earlier trying to turn that double play, and this one got by him.
Adam Eaton, a walk and a home run. He scored both times as he looks at one outside. It's a big day for the man who's having a wonderful start to this season. Just what the Sox needed was a bona fide leadoff hitter who will take pitches, who has just enough power to occasionally hit the ball out of the ballpark, and can steal a base.
Well, you talked about occasional home run power. It's exactly right. Fastball down the middle, you get the barrel out. And with this jet stream today, something way high is going to get pulled out, but something low between those lights is going to go, and that one hit well, just flew out to the bullpen in right field.
Looking at a very happy Sox dugout. And they were giving him the real high five, so he had to leap up to make some contact with his teammates.
Well, and it's fun to hear him talk about that. He understands his stature is not one that is going to scare anybody.
That pitch in the dirt, and the count goes to 3-1.
But to be able to joke around with it gives everybody else that comfort that they can tease him about it. He knows that's a part of his game. And you know what? He knows he's not going to be a home run hitter. But if he gets 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5, it's going to be because it's a fastball right down the middle that he did that perfect swing like we just saw.
3-1 pitch is way inside. And for the second time today, Eaton has drawn a walk.
For 2014, flexible ticket plans include the White Sox Pick 7 and Pick 14 plans. You select the games you want, including great matchups, promotions, and fireworks nights. These flexible ticket plans start as low as $35 per seat. So call 312-674-1000 or visit whitesox.com to order your tickets today.
Josh Outman loosening in the pen for the first time today. That bullpen gets started. We saw Outman for 1 inning. He gave up 1 run on 1 hit. He walked 1. He struck out 1. That was in relief of Salazar in the opening game. Scored a bunt, throw to second base. But Jordan is back. Tough play on a base run.
Very tough play. I mean, you've got to get a good secondary lead, knowing if it's a questionable bunt, they may be going to third, and it's a short throw, so you got to get there. But with a catcher like Santana, who can bounce back there, decent arm, you can't be leaning too far toward third.
Squares the bunt and fouls it off. It looks like it got him on the left hand. You've got to cup the bat. You can't wrap the fingers.
Well, and as a hitter, you don't want to let people know this happened to you, because when you're a bunter like this, it's you're paid to get it down. You can see that sliding in, and he wrapped his hand a little bit too far around it on that bunt attempt.
1-1 pitch. He picked a pitch that if he doesn't get the bat on it, probably hits it.
Yeah, that was a tight slider coming inside. That's when you want to pull back, but as a bunter, knowing you want to give yourself up, it's coming towards you. You're probably thinking, I can get it, catch it out in front of me and kill it. That one didn't quite happen.
Good speed on the base path. Danks at second, Eaton at first. And Leary goes down on strikes. That's 7 strikeouts for Masterson today. Well, just like that unusual Salazar game where he retired 11 men, 3 2/3 innings, 10 of them via the strikeout. Masterson is far from unhittable, but he has fanned a lot of our hitters.
Well, he's gotten 2 every inning, which is mind-boggling when you think about all the runs that we've put up and the guys that we've had on base, but sometimes you can be effectively wide.
That ball down in the dirt, and it gets by Santana. It hit him off the throwing hand, and what the bunt and the bunt attempt could not do, the wild pitch does. We've
all said it. We've all heard it. You'd rather be lucky than good. Masterson not really having any command whatsoever today, throws this hard slider right at the feet of Gillespie, and Santana, the only thing he could do is try to get his body in front of it. You're not going to try to backhand it, but when that bounced up off the dirt with that slider rotation, got him in the hand.
Gillespie with an RBI single in the first inning, grounded out in the second. He's got an opportunity to put a little more daylight between the Sox and the Tribe. Outfield straightaway. The infield is back. Terry Francona knows, as lively as this park is today, he wants to stay out of the big inning. He'll give up the 1 run on a ground ball in the infield. He just doesn't want to give up 2. And the count goes to 3-0. Bradley has an accurate arm in left field. It's pretty decent for a left fielder. Nyjer Morgan, you run on him all day. David Murphy, a decent arm, but not the typical right fielder's arm for a major league everyday player. And the count goes to 3-1. In the bottom of the 7th inning, the Yankees leading Boston 6-4, that big series in the Bronx. Bottom of the 9th, Tampa Bay leading Cincinnati 1-0. David Price picked up his second win last night, going into the 9th inning, striking out 11 men. And that left-hander might just be in line for a Cy Young award. He missed with it, and it loads him up. Fans giving a big hand for Jose Abreu, who walked and scored a run in the first inning, struck out looking in the second.
Today, the walk has definitely come back to haunt both pitchers. Masterson, 2 walks in that first inning, both of them scoring. Same with Molino. Walked 2 in that first inning, both of them scoring. So, A, you're going to have your guys see that pitcher the 4th, the 5th time, and B, you get guys in scoring position. Gives you a chance for that big inning, which we are sitting at right now.
Loses the bat on that slow breaking ball. Fortunately, did not go in the seats.
Little extra pine tar going on now for Abreu.
Well, that's what Michael Pineda had the other night for the Yankees. He said it was just dirt on his head. You could see it gleaming, that dirt.
Yeah. You pitchers, I'll tell you what.
Popped up to the right side, and the wind is going to take it well foul. Well, look. Now, some would say that that's an unfair advantage. To tighten up the curveball a little bit, tighten up the slider in the case of Pineda. When Joe Girardi was asked about it after the game, he goes, I don't know, I didn't see anything. It's one of those things, I guess. And Big Papi, David Ortiz for the Red Sox, said, all pitchers use pine tar. What's the big deal? But I will say, and my friends have told me this, I wouldn't know from firsthand knowledge, but it does make that curveball or slider break a lot more if you've got that real tacky substance to use. 0-2 pitch. Right back up the middle. Back to the plate for 1. Santana to first for a 1-2-3 double play. So it's out of the inning. A scoring opportunity squandered, and it stays a 5-4 game. CLEATCHA.com, sponsored by Jeff Vukovich, your local nationwide insurance agent serving the area for 36 years. Join the nation. Visit JeffVuk.com. Nationwide is indeed on your side. Nyjer Morgan is going to lead it off. He singled in the first inning. He was called out on a pickoff by Jerry Davis. Terry Francona came on. He challenged it. They looked at the replay. They said he was indeed safe. He later scored the first of the Indian runs, and he squares to bunt and takes one up and out of the zone. Good fastball for a strike. Evens the count at 1-1. And it was thought of as soon as Michael Bourne came back, which is as early as this coming Monday, that Nyjer Morgan would be gone. But he's played so well, he might have fought his way onto this roster. And that line drive, hooking foul.
Well, he really has. I mean, we talked at the top of the show, Cleveland right now, 6 for 6 stealing bases. Kipnis with 3, Nyjer with 2. Nobody being caught yet, hitting .389. And 1 for 2 today.
That evens the count at 2-2.
For most every major league player, all you want is that opportunity. If you can do what you know you can, you might be able to stay for a few years.
That one fouled off. Nyjer Morgan had a very good year in 2011 with Milwaukee. He hit .304 in 119 games. He could always steal bases. Stole as many as 34 with Washington in 2010. Sky to center field. Adam Eaton drifting over, and collision avoided. Center fielder's the captain. And Alejandro had to give way, but I think if you looked at Adam Eaton, he said, I couldn't hear you.
Well, the way this wind is blowing again, hard from right field, pole to pole, right to left. As he's running in, tracking it, we know what happened earlier with Kipnis and that ball falling in. He might be yelling, and even if Diaz is yelling, knowing it's coming back to him, when Diaz yells into the wind, it ends up being behind him. But does a good job as a left fielder of staying 1 foot behind your center fielder, letting him come across and make that catch.
Nick Swisher is 0 for 2. Swisher off to a very slow start, hitting just .170. Last year they used him as a cleanup hitter, but he didn't respond real well in that spot. You know, with Oakland originally and with the Yankees, Swisher hit down about 6th or 7th in the lineup. He wasn't the guy, he was a guy. I think if you try to make him the guy, it's tough on Swish. I think he's a great complimentary player. 22 home runs last year, leading the team. And looks like he might have hit another one here. It's up in the jet stream, and that one is in the bullpen, and the game is tied at 5. Second home run of the year, 7th run driven in for Swisher, and the second home run hit by the Indians today.
Think about this pitch, middle up. Not many major league hitters are going to miss this. And with the wind, the way we've talked about, even though it's blowing in from right, if you keep it down below the light stanchions, it's going to fly out to right field. You got enough of it into the bullpen.
Brings up Jason Kipnis. Kipnis has not been retired in 2 at-bats. Walked and scored a run in the first. A base hit leading off the third, but it raced on a double play. Polino falls behind 2-0. Runs tied at 5, hits tied at 5. The Indians with the only error of the ball game. And it's 3-0. Fastball for a strike. And now the hitter's dream.
At 3-1 count, Paulino now at 92 on the pitch count.
And that line drive down the line. Hooking. Fair ball. Second home run of the year for Kipnis. 7th driven in. His perfect day continues. So has the fact that in 22 games in this ballpark, he's hit safely in 21 of them.
Well over 400 in those 21 games. And you said it, 3-1 count as a hitter. You're looking fastball. He gets one in the zone and does not miss it. Only chance the White Sox had is that this ball went foul, but Kipnis kept his hands inside of it enough that made it over the Miller Lite bullpen sports ball party pitch.
So for the second time today, the Indians have the lead, and Carlos Santana looks at one down. He walked and scored a run in the first inning. He grounded into a double play in the third.
Much this wind has been blowing today. I mean, I'm sure you pitched in lots of games like this. I mean, how much does it really affect you?
Line drive, one hop, and Leary lets it play him. So Santana with the wide turn. That's one you probably would like to have gotten in front of and knock it down. Santana has decent but not great speed, but and that goes E4.
Paulino does a good job of getting this one inside the hands, and like you said, Garcia started to try to just keep it in front of him, but an in-between hop there, that's one where you take 2 or 3 steps closer to it. You can short hop it, just come up and throw to first. Let that ball eat him up a little bit.
Speaking of second baseman, the talented second baseman of the Kansas City Royals, Omar Infante, was back in the lineup after 3 days. He was hit in the face by Heath Bell. He has a .348 batting average. He got 8 or 9 stitches as well as a sprained jaw, yet he's back in the lineup. Did you ever get hit in the head with a fastball?
I did in the minor leagues one time. Very scary. Young man, Double-A, had just been called up from A-ball, hard thrower, and I was squaring around the bunt, and all of a sudden he's looking straight at me instead of the catcher's mitt. Ball's coming right at my head, and I spun around and clipped the top of the helmet, knocked it off. Concussion, but yeah, it's a scary thing when it's coming at your head.
Michael Brantley pops that ball up to center field. Eden calling for it. He waits for gravity, and there are 2 outs. Ronald Belisario loosening up in the bullpen. Last outing, he came out with a sore lower back. He had a very tough time in Coors Field. He's not the Lone Ranger. A lot of pitchers can say the same thing. That ballpark is tailored for offense. The ball travels a whole lot further than at sea level. Plus, they keep the grass very short, the infield dirt very hard, knowing when they're pitching, they're going to have to outscore the opposition. So Cabrera looks at one down, grounded into a force play, drove in a run in the first inning. He walked to lead off the second. Asdrubal originally came out of Seattle Mariners organization, came to Cleveland in a trade, turned out to be a very good one for the Tribe. The count moves to 2-0.
For Paulino, he is now thrown over. That was his 101st pitch, so you wonder how much longer he's going to go even if he gets out of this inning.
Don Cooper and Robin are going to let him try to get out of this inning. If he can, I would suspect that that would be it. Short lead at first by Santana. He's not going anywhere. Paulino runs the count to 3-1. Get Ryan Rayburn in the on-deck circle. He's 0 for 2 against Paulino today. The career .300 hitter against our Sox. Fouled off to the left, and the count goes full. Does it mean that Abreu probably will tell Paulino that he's going to play in back of Santana at first to get a little better angle?
Well, big pitch, big out here. Paulino struggling, back-to-back home runs. I'm sure he wants to get into that dugout. Stop the bleeding right here.
Santana going, and that one fouled back.
Where that ball was thrown last year, I guess his dribble doesn't really miss it like he did on that one. That ball was center cut, a little bit up in the zone. We've seen that same pitch leave the ballpark on both teams, both Cleveland and the White Sox. I've gotten lucky. Now let's see if we can go back and hit a spot. Brewers stepping out of the box. We've talked about the wind today.
It's
just a little bit gusty. Yeah, they're going to have a little dust getting into the eyeballs.
Struble hit .242 last year. It was not a great year for him. 14 home runs, 64 driven in. But this is his walk year. We'd expect a much better year this year from him. Swing and a miss, and he got it. But not before the Indians hit a couple of home runs, taking a 6-5 lead as we head into the bottom of the 5th inning. We end the bottom of the 5th inning, trailing by a run. It'll be Dunn, Ramirez, and Diaza to face Masterson. It's been the left-handers getting the job done today, and that's the usual MO for Masterson. Gillespie with a hit, Dunn with a hit, Diaza with a hit. Home run by Eaton, base hit by Danks. And that got him, I believe. That slider breaking down and in. Fortunately, doesn't hit him square on the kneecap.
Yeah. And this is one as a hitter. You're like, I'm picking up that slider and boink, right off the ankle. I used to joke around saying, don't rub it. Don't let him see it hurt you. Got that back ankle. That will leave a mark. There will be a little ice bath tonight. But we got a leadoff guy on, so whatever it takes. Took an error in that first inning to get us back into the league. Maybe a hit by pitch gets this inning going for us.
Let's see, working on that 11-game hitting streak is hitless today. Grounded into a force play in the first inning. Base on balls and nothing came of it in the third. Roger Morgan very deep in center field. There's a lot of room to loop the ball into left center. Bradley straightaway left. Murphy straightaway right. Sinks that ball inside.
Well, that's tough as a hitter. That first strike right on the corner. You start thinking in the back of your mind, if he throws another one in there, the umpire's going to call it, even though it might be a ball. So that was a great location, great little moving fastball.
Slider right over the middle of the plate, and Masterson got away with that.
Yes, he did.
Had him done at first. There's nobody out. In 2002 at Cincinnati, Adams stole 19 bases. Right back up the middle, base hit. The hitting streak continues as Alexei has moved that hitting streak to 12 games.
Can't think of a better start for a hitter in the Sox uniform. This ball down a little bit. Alexei stays right on it. Takes it right back up the middle. Good effort by Asdrubal, but past him. And we talked about Adam Duck. Young man, when he first came up, could run those bases. And if Roger was a little bit further back, if that ball's in right, my guess is he's getting all the way to third.
Alejandro Diaz, who singled in a run in the first inning, rounded into a force out in the third. Tries to bunt. It's rolling, foul. Masterson did a good job of waiting for that ball to roll foul and then touching it immediately.
That ball looked like it might have started to go back. Roger Bossart has done a great job with this infield, especially knowing the number of speed guys that we have. This ball, Masterson sees it, other side of the line, quickly touches it.
Alejandro taking a long look down at Joe McEwing, going through his set of signs.
Well, sometimes as a hitter, you take it upon yourself. You know what? Even though I might not have a sacrifice bunt sign on here, if I can lay down a good bunt and get a base hit, great. And if I'm out, I got two guys in scoring position.
Line drive off the glove of Swisher at first base. It trickles into right field. Jason Kipnis will bring it back. And the fact that Swisher was in as close as he was to take away the bunt produced the base hit. Otherwise, just a line drive and maybe a double play.
That's exactly right. You never know what can happen when you get those infielders in a position that they're not used to. Diaz did a great job of scalding this line drive, and Swisher, again, as you see him, glove coming off on that infield grass. Base hit for Diaz, and I'm sure McEwing probably through those signs said, look, Nieto's behind you. Hasn't played a whole lot, couple strikeouts. I don't want you bunting here. You know, anybody else, Tyler Flowers, go ahead. But here, you got a base hit once, get another one.
Adrian with the chance to, at the very least, tie it up, and he swings through a fastball. In the first and third, the strikeout victim swinging. Outfield pretty much straight away. Morgan, a couple of steps to the left of center. And Santana picks that one down.
For Nieto, again, part-time player, what you want to see is your nose down on the ball, even when you swing and miss it. With his nose up toward the pitcher, he's losing track of that ball and not trusting his hands. Following it all the way in. He's just got to bury his nose down there and throw one out and play.
We've obviously figured out that my partner, Ken Harrelson, is a little under the weather today. In his stead, Mike Huff has taken over. It's a good point about the first swing, because Hawk is always talking about watching the baseball, even if it's out of the strike zone, watch it into the glove. And a 2-2 count. Adrian, to this point, seems to be swinging at the invisible ball.
Yeah, you know, he's seen it out of the hand, probably pretty good, picking up the rotation. But the eyes are staying toward the pitcher instead of tracking it all the way to that point of contact. Again, guarantee something you work on when you flips and before practice, but today it's just not transferring over the game.
Little chopper. Santana's going to come back and step on the plate, and that's going to be his only play. So last inning. Masterson also loaded him up with 1 out. Got out of it with a 1-2-3 double play off the bat of Abreu. He loaded him up with nobody out this inning. And the force out of the plate yielded nothing.
Nieto at least making contact on that one. You saw hit behind home plate, but had the top spin, rolled forward. I'm sure for the Tribe fans out there, they wish it hadn't gone too far. For the Sox fans, they wish it had gone about 3 more feet. Would have had an RBI there.
Jordan Dinks 1 for 2, and he looks at a slider in. Bullpen up and going once again for the Indians as the pitch count is over the century mark for Masterson. Little chopper right side. Swisher steps on the bag, comes home, and he missed him at the plate. Once you step on the bag, you have to make the tag at the plate.
Yeah, we saw Nick earlier in this situation, first and third earlier in the game, going to second, trying to get that 6-4-3. This time steps on first, which means you have to tag your runner. And with the new rule, Santana has to be out in front of home plate, giving the base runner an opportunity to score. And Ramirez a great job on not the lead foot, but the back foot. Not the right, but watch the left come sweeping across right there.
It was a great slide, and leaving only one leg as a target for Santana. He realizes it's going to be close. He slides away from him. No contact from Santana. Good call by Quinn Wolcott. That ties the game at 6. So Masterson will depart. We'll step out and be back after these messages.
White Sox calendar. Purchase your tickets today by visiting whitesox.com or call 866-SOX-GAME.
There's your look at Josh Outman. He's 1-0, the ERA 2.25, on for the 6th time. Acquired from the Colorado Rockies on December 18th of last year. Drew Stubbs going to the Rockies. Outman inherits base runners at second and third, 2 outs here in the 5th inning. And the game tied at 6. Adam Eaton, a perfect day so far. A couple of walks, a home run, and 2 runs scored. He looks at a breaking ball away. Indians needed a left-hander in their bullpen. They had a surplus of outfielders, so Stubbs goes as a platoon player to the Colorado Rockies, and Outman gives him another dependable left-handed arm along with Mark Zubchinski.
Stubbs full of talent like Outman here. Good looking ball player, great speed, good power. Sometimes you have to give up something pretty good to get something pretty good back, and Tribe look like they have a pretty good one tonight.
That one down in the dirt. Santana picks it. And it's a 2-0 count. Leary Garcia in the on-deck circle. He'll turn around and hit right-handed if, in fact, he does face Oakland. Adrian Nieto with a long lead at second base. Nobody paying much attention to him. As Diaz comes down the line at third. The bat shatters. It's a fair ball. And he gets him at first base. So excuse me, swing, a broken bat and out of the inning, but not before the Sox tie it up at 6. Here's a look at Ronald Belisario in relief of Felipe Paulino. Paulino went 5 innings, 6 runs on 6 hits, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, and Belisario coming off a tough outing in Colorado, looking for a redeemer here. The game is in his hands as he inherits a tie game, so Masterson gets a no decision, and Paulino gets a no decision. Bottom part of the order, Rayburn, Murphy, and Aviles to face Belisario. Outfield straight away, and the wind howling toward right. Little chopper in the infield. Leary comes in, smothers it, and an easy play at first base, and Ryan Rayburn is now 0 for 3.
Join the Chicago White Sox for Weather Day, presented by WGN-TV on April 30th at U.S. Cellular Field. Prior to the game versus the Detroit Tigers, WGN meteorologist Tom Skilling will host a special program focused on weather, which today would be really appropriate. Go to thewhitessox.com/WGN for more details.
That'll bring up David Murphy, who homered in the second. A soft fly ball to left field in the fourth. Line drive right at Abreu at first. It was hit like a rocket, but Jose in the perfect spot.
Well, you can't help but wonder what goes around comes around. Mr. Murphy got a home run that we know was foul upon review, and now he hits one even harder. That's a line drive out. Probably the most frustrating thing about baseball, where you can do everything absolutely right and you still fail.
Mike Aviles, who's 0 for 2. Well, from a pitching standpoint, Mike, all you can do is make the pitch. After that, you have 7 men behind you to make the play. Sometimes a guy will hit a line drive at somebody, and sometimes they loop one in right over the infield and right in front of the outfield. But that's the capricious nature of this game. Line drive, base hit right field. And Aviles has his first hit with 2 outs here in the 6th. You know, a great story. A guy used to play for the Indians for a long time, Grady Sizemore. He's now the starting center fielder for the Boston Red Sox. Made it out of spring training, came as a non-roster player, fought his way onto the club, hit a 3-run homer against the Yankees as the Sox won 4-2. And the Boston press talked to a lot of the Boston players about Sizemore, and they said it's gone from being a very good story to him being a contributing member of what they hope will be a repeat championship team. So Sizemore has resurrected his career after a number of injuries, a number of surgeries. You had a surgery. You had some injuries. You were on the disabled list a couple of different times. How difficult is it after a surgery to come back?
Well, you start to doubt yourself. You wonder if you can ever be the same type of player you were before. You know, for me, being able to run, play defense, and diving for a ball in Seattle, fracturing the bone, tearing the rotator cuff in the shoulder, and needing to have season-ending surgery or pulling muscles in the legs, you wonder if you can ever get back to be the same player.
2-1 count on Nyjer Morgan. Led off the game with a single. He's 1 for 3.
I can only imagine for a guy like Grady Sizemore that came in and literally had all-star potential written all over him, and the expectations to have multiple injuries, multiple surgeries. It's got to be incredibly fulfilling to get back on the field.
Fly ball center field. Adam Eaton calls for it. Easy play and an easy 6. They get a hit but no runs. We head to the bottom of the 6th in a 6-6 tie. Six game, and as you can see, Ken Harrelson is not here today. I'm joined by Mike Huff, who's doing a terrific job in this an offensive outburst. And what do you think of the offense so far?
Well, it's everything we talked about at the opening of the show. The White Sox finding ways to manufacture runs, sometimes with the long ball, sometimes with the small ball, and we've seen a little bit of all of it today.
Felipe Polino started this one, as did Justin Masterson. Neither will leave with a decision. For Masterson, it's the 3rd time he gets a no decision. And he hopes he doesn't even come close to the 17 no decisions that Jose Quintana racked up last year to lead all of baseball in that department. So leading it off in the bottom of the 6th inning will be Leury Garcia. He's 0 for 3, reached on a very costly error in the 1st inning, struck out in the 2nd and 4th. Little chopper, it's a fair ball. Outman gets it, no angle on the throw, but he gets it over there in time. And a good solid play by Josh Outman.
Really was. I mean, this is a swinging bunt. Very difficult for a pitcher, especially a left-hander that falls a little bit off toward third. Came over, stayed inside, three-quarter arm, and threw a dart. Beat Garcia by just a stride.
Now they'll bring up Connor Gillespie, who singled, drove in a run in the first inning, his 9th of the year. After a ground out, he walked into 4th, so he's 1 for 2 with a run batted in. Not your prototypical 3-hitter, yet he's hitting .351. It's a fastball right down the middle.
Well, and as you described earlier, it seems like he's truly playing within himself. He's hitting those line drives to off fields. He's not trying to hit a home run even though he's batting third. And he's comfortable, just like in his skin this year.
Off to a much better start than last. They got Josh Outman because of his ability to retire left-handers. Last year with the Rockies, left-handers hit .198 against him. And because he throws straight over the top, almost has a catcher-like throw, I don't think the hitters see the ball until it's pretty much right on top of them. 2-1 count on a very blustery day here, although it's 75 degrees. The wind very much a factor this afternoon.
Sun has come in, gone out of the clouds a few times. It is a beautiful day here. Really nice crowd. Enjoying an exciting ball game.
A 3-1 count. He gets out of the way of that fastball.
Something that last inning Mr. Eaton was unable to. So like you said, it must be a little bit of a sneaky deception on the throwing motion here, because the lefties, granted Masterson, big righty coming from three-quarter, seems like they're not quite picking it up as well right
now. It's unusual to see a guy who you would describe as a short armor, meaning he doesn't get extension. He comes right back over his head. And a hitter is looking for a release point. I don't think you see it quite as well with Outman. I think that's his deception to lefties. As that ball is fouled off and the count goes full. Brian Shaw loosening up. We saw him in last night's game. He went an inning, gave up 2 runs on 3 hits. Not one of his better performances, but he is a very valuable member of that bullpen. He walked him. So with 1 out, Gillespie walks for the second time.
Join the White Sox Kids Club, presented by the University of Chicago Medicine, Comer's Children's Hospital. We are teaming up to promote a healthy lifestyle and combat childhood obesity. Members will receive free White Sox tickets and cool, exclusive Kids Club items. Visit whitesox.com/Kids Club to join the club today.
Jose Abreu walked and scored a run in the first inning, a strikeout, and tapped into a 1-2-3 double play to end the 4th. It's a fastball for a strike. The Sox came into this one half game in back of Detroit. Cleveland came in a game and a half back at 5-6. Sox looking for win number 7 in 12 games. Short lead at first, and Outman misses away.
Well, the nice thing to see so far today is even though we've gotten behind a couple times, we've continued to come back and put pressure. I know we might be thinking the last couple innings having the bases loaded should have scored a few more, but if we can keep putting that type of pressure on, I know we're going to break through and get a few more here.
Jose has huge power to right center, and that's where the win tunnel is. That moves to 2-1. You know, sometimes a team makes a trade, and it really helps you even though you're not involved in that deal. The Cubs wanted Anthony Rizzo from San Diego. So they gave up a young right-hander at the time, Andrew Kashner, who didn't look like he was going to be a Pensman, but they weren't quite sure if he could start. Andrew Cashner last night threw a one-hitter against the Tigers. 11 strikeouts. The only hit they got was a Rajay Davis bloop single in the 6th. It's the first shutout in baseball this year.
And against a lineup like that, I mean, that is saying something.
An even more unbelievable statistic is that the San Diego Padres are the only team in all of baseball to never have a no-hitter.
That is why I like being in the booth with you. Incredible knowledge up here, folks. Yeah, that is mind-boggling. You would think one of these guys would have had one.
He got him. That one up out of the zone, or at the top of the zone. He swung through it. So 2 outs.
That was one of the few times you've seen Abreu kind of get outside of himself. Not sure what that pitch was. Maybe a changeup. But Abreu ahead of it, swinging awfully hard. And like you said before, with a big, strong guy, and the way he can pop that ball to right center, staying inside, staying on it, making good contact, that ball is going to jump and possibly leave the ballpark.
Adam Dunn drove in a couple of runs with a single in the 1st inning, a strikeout in the 3rd, and then got hit by a pitch in the 5th. Tries to check his swing, but it's a strike.
This can be a huge confidence boost if Adam can get one out of here. Well, he's facing a lefty, which you probably won't see too much of this year.
That evens the count. To add to that San Diego story, you might remember a guy years ago by the name of Clay Kid Kirby. He had a no-hitter through 8 innings. San Diego was in last place. Manager at the time, Preston Gomez, took him out of the game for a pinch hitter. And the Padres have never thrown a no-hitter, including that day. My feeling, you're going to finish last. Your pitcher's got a no-hitter through 8.
You let him
You got to leave him in the game.
You got to leave him in the game.
But Preston was a good manager, managed for a lot of different teams, and a great baseball man. So don't agree with that particular move. That one fouled off, and the count evens at 2-2. 2 outs here in the bottom of the 6th inning. And the line's identical. 6, 7, and 1 for both the Indians and the Sox. Indians scored 3 in the 1st, 1 in the 2nd, 2 in the 5th. Sox came back with 4 in the 1st inning, 1 in the 2nd, 1 in the 5th. Looks at a fastball right down the middle for strike 3. And that's it. We're 2/3 of the way home, and the game is tied at 6. Another inning of work for Ronald Belisario, who had a very good 6th inning. Coming off a disastrous outing in Colorado, he's an integral part of this bullpen. Don Cooper said we've got to get him straightened away, along with Michael Clado. They're going to be the guys who will be charged with getting the ball to Matt Lindstrom to try to nail down the save. So Nick Swisher to lead it off here in the top of the 7th. And he looks at a fastball for a strike.
Last at bat, Nick left the yard, getting the try within 1. That time looked like he was thinking that might be one coming under the chin.
Broken bat, base hit. The head of the bat goes flying past the coach's box at first base, and Swisher is aboard with his 2nd hit of the day. Today's game's available in Spanish on your SAP audio setting, provided by 97.5 FM ESPN Deportes, Chicago's first and only Spanish-language sports radio station. Very good crowd today. 75 degrees and 27,332 showed up. Fastball right down the middle to Jason Kipnis, who's 2 for 2 with a walk. He's had a perfect day. Hit his 2nd home run of the year in the 5th. As the Indians went back-to-back with Swisher and Kipnis. That moves to 0-2, and Swisher taking a very short lead.
This infuriates me as a former player, seeing guys not take almost any type of leadoff. I don't care if you're slow. Get out there so you give yourself a chance to break up a double play on a slow roller, get to second base.
Belisario does not have the greatest move, like a Jesse Crane move that you remember from a few years back.
For Mark Burley move.
That was state of the art. That's about as good as it gets. Short lead again. And a breaking ball misses the outside corner.
So if you've looked around the league, followed everything, tell me some of the teams that you think have a chance to make some hay or have already started.
Well, I think certainly, look, let's break it down by leagues. There's some very good starts for teams, but you have to say Seattle, even though they loaded up with Cano. They got Felix Hernandez.
Ken Felix.
Who's 3-0. And unbelievably good. Goes a fastball right by Kipnis for strike 3. Big strikeout. Brad Miller at shortstop for Seattle. A lot of people don't know about him, but he's got some big power. As you see that one just sink out of the zone at 95. It's pretty hard to do that. Pretty hard to get that much sink on a 95-mile-an-hour fastball.
Well, I'm sure Jason said the same thing, like, oof, that's awfully good. When the ball comes out of a pitcher's hands that hard, you don't ever see that type of drop, last-minute drop. And there was another one that Santana did a great job of not offering on also.
He walked and scored a run in the first, grounded into a double play, and reached base on an error. He's 0 for 2. A radical shift still on as he looks at a fastball inside. That was a strike on the inner portion.
Lethal combination of good velocity and good location. Going to get a lot of hitters out when you can do that.
I don't know how he got that ball to sink at 95 to Kipnis, but if he can do that by design, there's nobody on this planet that can hit that. Scott Downs listening in the pen. He's another one of the guys that I'd like to see him come around because they got Scott to retire left-handers in key situations. That one just foul. So that Seattle team we were talking about, Dustin Ackley, former #1 draft pick, he was drafted right after Strasburg, second player picked in the country, and he had been a disappointment to this point. We saw him in spring training. He looked terrific. He had 3 hits last night. So he's becoming the player out of North Carolina that they thought when they drafted him.
Sure.
And their new catcher, Mike Zunino, hit a home run last night. So they've done pretty well. In the American League, the Milwaukee Brewers, 8-2. Checked up his swing, and the count moves to 2-2. A lot of people felt the Brewers could hit. They were a little concerned with the pitching, but the pitching has been overwhelming to this point.
Nice to see if we can get Connor Gillespie another one of those double plays.
That one gets away. A wild pitch. And it sends a potential go-ahead run into second base.
Well, this is also going to probably make Gillespie have to play a little bit closer to third. We've talked about the struggles for Masterson. Belisario clearly snapping this one off about 54 feet away, and Nieto not a whole lot of chance on this one, although he came pretty close and got the glove on it. Can't really slide over with your knees and keep your chest and keep that ball in front of you when it's bouncing that far in front of the plate.
If you make that play, then you're very fortunate. Because that was the illustration of why they have wild pitches. He misses. Santana's aboard via the base on balls. So Felipe Paulino went 5. This is the second inning of work for Belisario, and it looks like that's the last man he's going to face, with Michael Brantley due up next. Scott Downs had been warming up in the pen. Robin takes a long, slow walk, points to the bullpen. And that's going to bring in the Downs-Brantley confrontation. So Belisario's afternoon is done. And Scott Downs comes walking in from the pen. We'll step out and be back after these messages. Here it's runners at first and second. 1 out here in the 7th inning. Scott has really struggled. He's 0-2. His ERA up over 16, on for the 5th time. He's pitched a grand total of 1 inning and 2/3, and this is one of the guys that we have to get going out of the pen. So Michael Brantley, who singled in 2 runs in the first inning, then a ground out and a fly out, so he's 1 for 3. Brantley with 9 runs driven in. Off to a pretty solid start. He's hitting .289. Outfield, pretty much straight away. That fastball misses away. That's been the big problem with Scott. He gets behind, and then you get the hitter sitting on a fastball.
Well, you mentioned only 1.2 innings, 1 2/3 innings, and he's given 3 hits and 3 walks, which you would think for a short reliever that's going to be a specialist, he's got to be pounding that strike zone. Is there anything that you can see in that delivery right now that looks a little askew?
Well, the delivery looks like it always has. Last year, he had 2.45 ERA for a full season. And he's come this year and lost any conception of the strike zone. Downs is falling behind 2-0. And he steps off the mound.
The double play is still in order, so you hate seeing him fall behind now because now you put Brantley into a much better hitting position. Much better hitting count.
Threw a fastball by him. Daniel Webb loosening in the pen. On Thursday night, he went 2 perfect innings with a couple of strikeouts. Just missed hitting it. So Webb will be ready depending on the resolution of this at bat. And the question for Robin is, do you want Cabrera to hit from the right side, or would you like him to hit from the left side? I believe he's a better right-hand hitter, but we'll see what's on Robin's mind depending on what happens here. 3-1 pitch. And he walked him. So it loads him up. And here comes Robin. Question answered.
Question answered. I would think with Rayburn a righty, although Murphy's a lefty, Avilas a righty.
So as Daniel Webb comes sauntering in from the pen, we'll step out and be back after these messages.
Join the WhiteSox.com blacklist for free and receive the White Sox Wire email newsletter, exclusive ticket offers and pre-sales, video sneak peeks, breaking news alerts, and more. Visit WhiteSox.com/backlist to register today.
Daniel Webb comes into the game, and Webb does not have a record. He does have a 2.84 ERA. This is his 4th appearance. In 6 1/3, he's fanned 7, walked 2. He inherits the bases full of Indians, no margin for error. As Asdrubal Cabrera steps up, he's 0 for 2 with a walk. In the infield, playing about halfway, looking for 2 if they can get a ground ball. This is popped up. Ball is drifting. The wind has got it, but it's in play. And Connor Gillespie with a huge catch.
Great job by Mr. Webb coming in, challenging Cabrera. We talked about before, would you rather him be right-handed or left-handed? Better hitter right-handed, and lefty up in the zone, underneath it. Gillespie doing a good job checking the fence. I'm sure every White Sox player was saying, you got plenty of room, stay with it. Made the catch.
Adrian Nieto was screaming for Gillespie to make the play.
Oh, definitely.
That'll bring up Ryan Rayburn. He's 0 for 3 today. He hasn't had the ball out of the infield, but always a dangerous hitter. .98-mile-an-hour fastball on the outside corner.
Yeah,
a whole lot of people going to hit that.
No, that sounded like it was outside. I'm not sure I would have been swinging at that. For Mr. Rayburn having such success historically against us, I'm sure he's thinking, really? I get to face this guy?
He swung at it. The appeal doesn't get the call from Jerry Davis. That was 99. And let's check it out, Mike.
Well, there's something that tells me there was an intent, and you look at that replay, his hands clearly, wrists were broken, barrel of the bat was in front of the plate.
A 2-1 count. A very bad break on a call that went the Indians' way. And as you saw in the replay, clearly Ryan Rayburn swung at it. 2 outs, bases loaded in this 6-6 game. Top of the 7th inning. Right back up the middle, a base hit. 2 runs are going to score. And it's an 8-6 game as Rayburn does what he always does against our Sox. Winning his RBI total to 4. And it's a 2-run deficit.
Well, Daniel having to come back after not being 0-2. This one, I'm sure he doesn't want up quite this much or this much of the plate, but Rayburn does a good job of the ball down the middle, taking it right back up the middle, and plates 2 for the Tribe, and we're back to being down by a couple.
David Murphy, who homered in the second, chops that one foul. Murphy lifted a soft fly ball to left field in the 4th. Line drive rocket right at Abreu in the 6th. Count evens at 1. Both of those runs charged to Belisario. An inning in the 3rd, gave up a couple of runs on a couple of hits, a walk and a strikeout. Line drive, right at Ramirez. And that'll end the inning, but not before the Indians score a pair. They take an 8-6 lead and will head into the bottom of the 7th. Shaw. We did face him in last night's game. He went an inning, gave up a couple of runs on 3 hits, didn't walk anybody, and fanned 2. A very good year last year. Very solid out of the bullpen. And with Joe Smith gone for a 3-year contract to the Angels, and Vinny Pastano, after arm surgery, sent down to the minor leagues, along with the departure of Chris Perez as a free agent, Ryan Shaw becomes very valuable to this team, and it's essential that he have a good year. Last year, 7-3 with an ERA of 3.25 in 70 appearances for the Tribe. And he inherits a 2-run lead. 9 outs to go, and Alexi Ramirez to lead it off here in the bottom of the 7th. You know, some interesting notes out of Japan, Mike, and I want to know your feelings about this. Last year, the commissioner of baseball, Ryozu Kato, resigned after allegations that the balls were juiced up, and he finally had to admit that they did it to produce more offense. So he apologized and then resigned. Well, the new commissioner, Katsuhiko Tamazaki, had to admit that the balls were still juiced up this year. Now, Frank Thomas has said he feels that the balls in the major leagues are juiced a bit. You've seen a few of the games. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's really hard to make that assumption. You know, there's been the ball jumping a little bit. Our offense is looking great, but
that one popped up. Swisher coming over, calls for it, and makes the play.
I just can't see across the major leagues the ball being juiced. The way the ballparks are now, you know, designed, the way the ball can jump out of so many, the way there is so much offense going on right now, I think there's plenty of excitement to sort of have to try to tweak that a little bit more and juice them up. Hard for me to think that that's happening over here.
And statistics for the first couple weeks of the season do not support the juiced up baseball theory, because home runs are actually a touchdown this year over last year. They'll bring up Alejandro Diaza, who's 2 for 3, drove in a run in the first inning. A couple of singles in the first and 5th. Fouls that ball off to the left. Apparently, if you want really offensive baseball, head to Japan.
There you go. As Niger Morgan did.
He did for a year. Another little pop-up. Vila's calling for it, and he makes the catch. So quickly 2 up, 2 down. A couple of soft pop-ups. And it brings up Adrian Nieto. A couple of strikeouts and a little tapper. And Santana was able to go out, corral, and step on the plate for a force play. Sox have had huge opportunities. Bases loaded, 1 out in the 4th. Bases loaded, nobody out in the 5th. They came away with 1 run out of those 2 situations. Fastball misses away.
Well, I guarantee if we do lose today, they're going to look back on those 2 innings. They're going to look back on 3 of the walks that have scored. And they're also going to look back on Murphy's solo home run that actually was a foul ball and say, wow. Not 8-6, might be 6-4, and we should have scored a bunch more.
Catching the inside corner, that fastball, pretty good one. Adrian getting confirmation from Quinn Wolcott that it was indeed a strike. Top of the strike zone, fastball, he swings right through it.
If there's anybody that can turn around and question an umpire about a called strike, it probably should be a catcher, because if they're receiving it for their pitchers, they should know if an umpire's missed something. They're probably the only one that can turn around and say, hey, I think you might have missed that one. Am I the guy that's protecting you on these balls in the dirt so that you don't get any? I mean, you should show me a little bit of love here, shouldn't you?
Each and every one of these umpires has their own particular strike zone within the parameters of where the strike zone is. More times than not, the high strike has gone away. Little chopper right side. Easy play for Kipnis, and a 1-2-3 inning. So it's on to the 8th. Sox trail by a pair. It's a 2-run game with the Indians on top. Swisher and Kipnis with back-to-back home runs in the 5th. And Lexi Ramirez hitting safely in all 12 games this year. The record is Frank Thomas, and that's 15. Start something special with great leases and low financing on a new Honda. Visit shophonda.com or your local Honda dealer. Aviles leads it off and fouls that ball straight back. Aviles 1 for 3. Base hit coming in the 6th inning. That one right off the tip of the right shoulder. And Quinn Wolcott giving him some time to collect himself. That's popped up. Gillespie calling for it as the wind drags it over to his side. And he makes the play.
Fans, follow every White Sox game all season long with MLB.com @bat on your favorite mobile phone or tablet. @bat brings you baseball wherever you are with live look-ins, instant replay, scores, stats, highlights, audio, free MLB TV game of the day, live pitch-by-pitch tracking, classic games, and more. Download this award-winning MLB.com @bat app on the App Store or visit WhiteSox.com today.
There's a look at Donnie Veal as he comes in. Daniel Webb will step out. We'll come back after a short break.
weekends early with How I Met Your Mother on WGN America. These friends write the playbook when it comes to love, laughs, and pickup lines. How I Met Your Mother, Thursdays and Fridays at 8 on WGN America.
Donnie Veal comes into the ball game. Nobody on base, one out here in the 8th inning. The first man he's going to look at is Nigel Morgan. And Veal has had a pretty solid start. He's on for the 5th time. His ERA 2.70 and 3 1/3. He's given up 3 hits and just 1 earned run. Walking 3, banning 2. And you got to play in at the corners because lefty, and Morgan not facing many left-handers. I'm sure he's thinking about bunting. And almost without exception, he tries to drag it with him instead of pushing it to third. That fastball up and out of the zone.
Well, not only are the corners up, but your middle infielders up a little bit too, knowing that Morgan could probably lay one down towards second or even slapping one or chopping one towards short.
Morgan 1 for 4. And Veal has fallen behind. Nick Swisher in the on-deck circle. 3-0 count. Fastball taken for a strike. This is where the lefty advantage evens out because you got to figure you're going to see a fastball. There it is, but it misses. So Morgan's aboard.
And not only aboard, but a threat to run. So Donnie Veal coming in to face Niger. Again, shaking his head. I'm sure he's as frustrated as anybody else out there, knowing that all he's got to do is get ahead, and he can use that really good, hard breaking ball, but never got in a position to be able to throw it.
6th walk of the day. Molino started, gave up 3 of them. And Nick Swisher, homer, a single, he's 2 for 4. There he goes. Throw to second base, off the mark. And he doesn't come close to getting it. Morgan just too quick.
Well, and this was 1-2. Niger took off on first motion, first move. You can see a good jump, head down, doesn't look in, so you know it's a straight steal. Hard head in. And actually, Nieto did a good job of catching this up. And if it was on the other side of the bag, you might have had a chance. Not when it's on the shortstop side, left field side.
Mike Scioscia, the fine manager, longtime catcher, told me there are no outs on the third base side of second. He encourages his catchers, keep it on the first base side of second. You might be able to get somebody in a swipe tag. Count even at 1 to Swisher. Right side is his natural side. Outfield straight away and pretty deep. Hit well, left field. Wind is going to knock it down, and Diaza has a play. He catches it, and Morgan takes a couple of steps before retreating. And there's 2 outs. That is a big run to save out at second base.
Couldn't agree with you more. Nigel Morgan does a good job, actually. When you see an outfielder you're just sitting underneath the ball, there's no reason to remain halfway out there. Go ahead and tag up, see if you can advance. Ball's hit, he looks at it, now he sees 2 outfielders underneath there. All right, let's go back. Let's see if he's going to get behind it and come in, make a good throw, make it, and you know what? It's a good throw, okay. Going to go back to second.
Brings up Jason Kipnis, who's 2 for 3 today. Looks at 1 inside. He was the second of back-to-back home runs in the 5th inning.
Well, Jason and I actually have a little history together. We played on the same Legion team for the same Legion coach. Obviously, him a few years after me.
I would say many years after you.
Many years after me.
Yes.
Same age as my daughter. Mitch Stewart. Famous or infamous up there?
2-0 count on the fine second baseman of the Cleveland Indians, Jason Kipnis. Fastball for a strike. Carlos Santana in the on-deck circle. He'll swing the bat from the right side, where he's a little more effective than he is from the left side. Jammed him, fouled it off down the line. Good fastball in on the hands of Kipnis. The bat didn't shatter, and I'm surprised he hit that ball right above his thumbs.
Yeah, that's going to leave a mark, too. You knew you had your hand in an ice bucket after the game. But Vila, a good job with that hard fastball away. Now Kipnis might be looking away and coming back in and dotting that inside corner.
Now Adam Eaton shades a couple of steps to right center. He got him on a sweeping breaking ball, so the run does not score, but the Indians remain up by 2 as we head into the bottom of the 8th inning. 6 outs to go. Got a big fastball, and he's 2-0 this year. No ERA on for the 6th time. He is their #1 setup man. On our Xfinity high-speed action replay in the 5th inning, Jordan Danks with the ground ball to Swisher, who tags first, comes home, and a great slide by Alexi Ramirez gets him around Santana and ties the game at 6. Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. And the aforementioned Jordan Danks is going to lead it off. He's 1 for 3 with an RBI. Fastball at 96. As Allen can rush it up there.
We talked about him being one of their premier setup men. Yeah, 0.00 ERA to date. That's a good guy you have setting up your closer.
Well, it's been somewhat surprising in that the Indians drafted him in the 16th round the second time they drafted him. He had been a 23rd round pick, and his velocity has gone from 88 to 92 And as a major leaguer, 94 to 96. Very difficult to add that many miles an hour. But he spent a year at a junior college. Now he is a very dependable part of that pen. He got him. So Danks goes down on strikes for the second time, and we swing to the top of the order with Adam Eaton. His first home run in the second inning. A couple of walks, 2 runs scored. It's been a fairly busy day for Eaton. Fastball for a strike. John Axford, the former closer of the Milwaukee Brewers, is now the closer for the Indians. Chopper, fair ball. It's a ground rule double as the fans reach out. And we can't emphasize enough, folks. You can get souvenirs, but never deal with a ball in play. And now Terry Francona comes out, and he might be asking Brian Knight to take a look at that to see if it was indeed fair. Now, he touched it. It appears he touched it in the field of play in fair territory.
Well, we know the ball hit dirt by home plate in fair territory. And just like you said, it looks like Aviles did touch it as he was crossing the line, so that might have pushed it into foul territory. Francona saying his piece and obviously not belaboring this point. Probably heard an explanation that warranted from Brian Knight, not pursuing it any further. But yeah, a great call there, Steve, that Avila did tip it as he was getting into position down the line to field it. Right there off the edge of the glove.
And you can see Brian Knight trying to avoid the baseball, but he's pointing fair all the way. And right there in fair territory, that ball is touched by Aviles, and a 2-base hit for Adam Eaton. As he leads away, Leury Garcia steps in. Swings right through a fastball. Garcia reached base on an Aviles error in the first inning. Struck out a couple of times and tapped it right back to the mound. 1 out here in the 8th. Sox 2 down. Fouled that one off. And quickly in an 0-2 hole.
Well, this is the type of a bat when you're kind of struggling and you haven't done what you wanted to in your one chance to start this week. 0 for 4 turns to 1 for 5. You're feeling pretty good, especially if you can get a base hit and RBI right here. So it's time to battle.
Count goes to 1-2. Allen had a big year last year for the Indians. He was 6-1 with an ERA of 2.43 in 77 games. Wind howling in the infield, lifting up a whole lot of dust clouds, and Allen with very little visibility. And Leury stepped out because he couldn't see much of anything. High fastball.
We mentioned the wind.
You can see Phil Cuzzy with his jacket just billowing from some very heavy winds. 1-2 count on Garcia. He got him. Backdoor breaking ball on the outside corner. 2 outs here in the 8th.
Leary knew this one. This is one of those that 2 strikes. You got to shorten up your swing a little bit. You got to try to foul those close ones off. But whatever he was thinking, that heater that you've talked about, the way Allen's been able to throw it by people.
Brings up Connor Gillespie, who singled, drove in a run in the first inning, his 9th of the year. A ground out and 2 walks, so he's 1 for 2 today. Big run out at second base. As Eaton leads away. That breaking ball misses down. All you've got to do is get the ball up in the air to left field, and it's going to be a tie game.
Well, and Connor's got the perfect swing for that, like you've talked about. Compact, short, line drive. Any decent line drive today, if it gets a little bit of backspin, it's going to carry right on out of here.
One fouled off to the left. The outfield a little deeper than normal. They're probably 2 steps deeper all the way around, playing a no double set. They can live with a single. You never throw through. You get the ball to second base because the tying run in the person of Gillespie. From the Indian standpoint, a base hit, he's got to still be at first.
Exactly.
Fouled that one off.
Good pitch there, too, right on the corner. No, exactly right. From an Indian standpoint, you're 4 outs away. Got a stepfather down in Jackson, Mississippi, who grew up a Tribe fan. I'm sure he's a little torn today, listening to me, but watching his beloved Indians. But at this point of the game, you're counting down outs. You can't let the tying run get into scoring position. Got to keep him at first base.
Allen does not like the sign of Santana behind the plate, so shakes it off. He got him. So Adam Eaton stranded at second base. It's still a 2-run game, and we head into the top of the 9th inning. Donnie Veal stays in the game, and he's going to face Santana, Brantley, and Cabrera. A lot of young folks around the ballpark today. Just a gorgeous day for baseball. Fastball misses inside. Santana's drawn 2 walks, and both times he's scored. He's 0 for 2 today, grounding into a double play. And reach base on an error. moves to 2-1.
Well, control has not been a strong suit for either team today, unfortunately.
There are some problems, and the walks have been very costly. Count evens at 2-2. Yankees defeated Boston today, 7-4 in the Bronx. Tampa Bay shut out Cincinnati in Cincinnati, 1-0. Minnesota defeated Kansas City 7-1 in Minnesota. That one well hit, but the wind is going to bat it down. There, right at the beginning of the warning curve.
That's when that Santana's got to be thinking, I got to go to right center with that, not left center. No chance going out today if you're trying to put one in the air to left center.
Now, if that ball's hit to right or right center, it's a home run.
Yeah.
As Michael Brantley comes up, 2-run single in the first inning, drew a base on balls in the 7th. He's 1 for 3. Breaking ball misses down. St. Louis defeated the Cubs 10-4 in St. Louis. Wainwright picking up his second win. Their ace, Adam Wainwright, is 2-1. We talked earlier about John Axford. They brought him over here to close. That's what we'll be trying to do. It's a safe situation in a 2-run game.
Donnie Field doing a good job of rushing it up here in the low mid-90s. It's just, again, like all of our pitchers today, a little bit too inconsistent with the strikes.
Falls to 3-1 as Drupal Cabrera in the on-deck circle. He walked him. Brantley walks for the second time. That'll bring up Asdrubal Cabrera. Drove in a run with force out in the first inning. And he's 0 for 3. Walk to lead off the 4th.
Well, that was the 7th walk of the day by Sox pitchers. And not only does that allow that lineup to roll over again, it puts your defense on the heels. It just gets everybody a little bit more tense and just a lot more pressure now with guys on base.
And he probably wants to keep it down because Cabrera from the right side is a high fastball hitter. That was an off-speed pitch, but it was well up in the zone. Brantley has yet to attempt a stolen base. That one down the line. It's a changeup. And a throw coming in, and they're going to have to hold Brantley at third base. So Mike Sarbaugh, with only one out here in the 9th, decides not to take a gamble.
Well, Cabrera, we've talked about, awfully good looking hitter. That ball down in the zone, but he went down nicely for it. Good line drive swing. Diaza does a good job of cutting it off before it hits the fence and getting it in quickly to Ramirez, holding Brantley to third base.
The intentional walk to Rayburn, not necessarily a bad idea. His 2-run single in the 7th inning is the difference in this game. So they'll leave it up to Murphy in a lefty-lefty confrontation, and that ball almost was thrown to the screen.
Yeah, you think this is an easy thing to do sometimes, but you tell me, Steve, as a pitcher, when you're used to throwing hard, you're used to throwing into the strike zone, and now all of a sudden you have to try to throw 3/4 strength and something that's 3 feet outside. I mean, what are you thinking?
Well, I will tell you that I don't believe pitchers work on the intentional walk. And so that's why you see twice a year, 3 times a year, you see guys throw away the pitch with the intentional walk. Because it's something that all pitchers work. They cover first. They work on balls hit back to them. They work on the bunt plays and going to different bases. But I'm not sure they do too much work on the intentional walk. Murphy hit a home run in the second inning. He is 1 for 4. Catches the outside corner. So the bases once again full of Indians as they look to pad their lead. 8-6-1 for the Indians. 6-8-1 for our Sox. Nice stop by Nieto as that ball squirts in front. And Brantley has to hold. Good slow breaking ball. We've reached the time of the game at this time of year where the pitcher is in bright sunlight and the hitter immersed in the shadows. So as we show you from the home plate camera, that shot, we zoom in, you can see the contrast, the visibility, not real good. But that ball hammered. Nobody's going to get it. Murphy one-hops the wall and 3 runs are going to score. Murphy all the way to third. And it's an 11-6 game. Well, the Indians got Murphy as a free agent to battle the right-hand pitchers. Here he comes through against the lefties.
Well, but for Donnie Veal, it was one curveball too many, and this one up in the zone inner half. Where he had success was where Murphy was trying to reach for it, a little bit on his heels. This time, too much of the plate and well hit to the gap.
Brings up Mike Aviles, and it brings the infield in at all 4 positions. Murphy's driven in 4 runs today. A fastball for a strike evens the count.
Dust in the eye of somebody here. We've talked about the walks, how both staffs have struggled. We have 8 of them now. 5 of those 8 have scored for the Indians.
That's something that will remain a constant as long as there's baseball. Walks will come back to haunt. This year, the bullpen has been a little too generous in many of the situations where they enter the game. Base hit. It's a 12-6 game. As Aviles with his second hit of the day. His first run batted in. His 5th of the year.
And this really was a pretty doggone good pitch by Donnie Veal. Up and in under the hands. You can see Coop and Robin almost resigned to the fact that today might not be their day. There's nobody up in the bullpen, so this is Donnie's to finish up, albeit only 1 out.
Great story out of Toronto and the Blue Jays with Dustin McGowan. He spent parts of the last 6 years, each and every year, on the disabled list. He had shoulder surgeries in 08 and 2010. He won a ball game yesterday for the first time since June 22nd of 2008. 6 1/3 shutout innings and a 2-0 win. Toronto getting a great year out of Mark Burley, and Dustin McGowan with a great comeback. Talk to you and ask you about coming back. I've always felt that long after the physical aspect of the injury is gone, the psychological aspect carries on. Was it that way for a position player?
Oh, yeah, exactly the same thing.
He got him as Morgan goes down looking.
That was the hook from Downey that I'm sure he wanted against Murphy. Niger on his heels. Had pitched him away 3 pitches, and then all of a sudden starts one at his hip, breaks over the inside corner. He gone. You're absolutely right, though. After that injury, you can have the doctors tell you you're physically 100% or as close to it as you'll ever be. But to get back in the batter's box, to make a throw, to steal a base, and truly have that muscle memory and have success doing it is tough.
Fastball for a strike to Swisher. Nick is 2 for 5 today. Changeup misses down. Fastball up and out of the strike zone. Slice foul off to the right, and it's a 2-2 count. Sox trail by 6. 4 big runs put on the board here in the 9th inning. And it's taken Axford out of a safe situation. Backdoor breaking ball, and Swisher reaches out, fouls it off.
Well, both sides, second half of this game, have had a couple chances. Men on base, bases loaded. For us in the 4th and 5th, we only tallied 1. For the Tribe in the 7th and the 9th, they've tallied 6. Clearly the difference in today's game.
We knew it was going to be very lively, because usually is in the daytime, and also it's 75 degrees and the wind is howling. So he throws it right by Swisher, and mercifully the top of the 9th ends, but not before the Indians score 4. They lead by 6. We head to the bottom of the 9th inning with a lot of work to do.
White Sox baseball has been brought to you by Miller Lite. It's not just a good time, it's Miller time. By Ford, proud sponsor of your Chicago White Sox. Check out America's best-selling brand at your local Ford store or online at localfordstores.com, and by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports.
There's the closer, John Axford, in a non-safe situation, but Terry Francona hasn't had a chance to use him in the series, so he wants to get him an inning today. Axford does not have a record, has a 2.08 ERA. This is his 6th game, and he already has 4 saves. So he's rediscovered the magic that he had for a lot of years with the Milwaukee Brewers, where he was one of the better closers around. It's going to be Abreu, Dunn, and Ramirez. If anybody gets on, Diaza, and hopefully Nieto and Danks. Sox need a half dozen to tie. Fastball at 96. Perfectly spotted on the outside corner.
Well, the way I look at it, if we're going to get 6, we might as well just get 7. Just win it. Let's not take this into extra innings.
It certainly would be nice. That being said, if Axford keeps throwing the ball on or just outside the outside corner, he's going to be tough to deal with.
Yeah, those first 2 pitches were about as perfect as you can be. Maybe a little bit up in the zone, but right on that outside corner.
Abreu drew walk and scored a run in the first inning, and then it's strikeout, double play, strikeout. So he's 0 for 3. This being one of his quieter days in the White Sox uniform. He got him. 98 miles an hour out away from him, so quickly 1 out here in the 9th. John Axford, 2011 with Milwaukee, saved 46 games at a 1.95 ERA. Just a magnificent year. That was sandwiched in between years where he saved 24 and 35 before falling on some hard times. Ground ball. It's right at Cabrera. And quickly, 2 up and 2 down.
Well, Steve, when you see a story like that, or a storyline like that, with a guy having so much success and then as a pitcher all of a sudden kind of losing it, looking like he's coming back, what does that say to you?
Says to me that he was hurt. Because if you can save 46 and then 35 in the only 2 years where he was used as the main closer, you know that he has no fear. And then to suddenly lose it, you know there has to be arm difficulties. Alexi Ramirez, who's run his hitting streak to 12 games. The all-time record, 15, by Frank Thomas. Alexi singled and scored a run in the 5th inning. Line drive, 1 hop. It eats up Kipnis. And we'll see how it's scored. It was a rocket, but then again it was right at Kipnis. They're giving him an error.
Well, this is the major leagues. I mean, as well as that ball is struck and it was hit well, Alexi doing a good job of taking that outer half and going to the right side. 8 Kipnis up, and again, just 3 or 4 more inches to the right, and he's killing that ball right in front of him. Bounces off of him, falls straight down. He can throw Alexi out.
Second error of the day for the Indians. First error this year for Jason Kipnis. So it keeps it alive for Alejandro Diaza, who's 2 for 4 today. Fouls that straight back. Little chopper right side. Easy play for Kipnis, and that's it. For the first time this year, the Sox go down to defeat to the Cleveland Indians. So stay with us. We'll be back with a wrap-up after these messages.
This is Smith & Ford.